Hey,
Hey,
yeah, AJ Edgetown.
hey, AJ Edgetown.
Hey, Karate Kid.
What's up, Karate Kid? Yeah, so you saw them definitely unblocked from my old account now on Facebook, huh?
Yep.
So yeah, you know that what was the second name I called? The third one was AJ Edgetown. What was
Al Edge.
Al
Oh, okay.
Edge?
I think it's Al Edge.
Yeah, that one got blocked too for nothing. I just all of a sudden one day I signed on and it was just blocked. Like, yeah, so out of Facebook jail for 30 days. I said, if any Christian believes that the Bob Jones Kansas City Chiefs winning Super Bowl is the start of a revival prophecy, if they believe that, they're dumb. And I guess that's grounds for hate speech. So, yeah. So, yeah. They're trying to make everyone walk on eggshells, and I do so much red pill content. They're trying to, like, scare me into a corner. But I ain't going. You can't put baby in the corner.
Only
Yeah.
for a month, actually.
Yeah, only for a month. Yeah, against my will.
Yeah.
So,
You in timeout for a month.
hey, it's one thing you do have to consider, though, is that... hold on, let me turn your volume up a little bit. Give you a little bit of volume. Can you talk real quick?
La 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 la. Christians are dumb. What?
Yeah. Okay, so one thing you do have to consider, though, is like if Facebook has an algorithm that can pick up, if you open up a second account and they have an algorithm that can pick up that you are your old account and blocks you too, that's beyond just blocking you for hate speech. That's like espionage. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So something to consider. You know, I just think Facebook needs to go down. This is craziness where all this technology is going.
Mhm.
Anywho's, I really like your Karate Kid shirt.
Well, thanks. It has the dichotomy on it. So
Oh shoot, yin yang. Hey, that's what it
there's
looks like.
your neural network, the tree, which covers you. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
like
So
the little Easter eggs.
yeah,
that
that's
are
what.
in there.
Yeah, Easter eggs. Easter eggs. Easter eggs. On Easter egg. So I guess that's what the flat Earth from the top. If you look down, that's what it looks like. So yeah, the yin and yang symbol.
Mhm.
Yep.
There's the sun and the moon,
Yep.
right? They're
Yep.
orbiting right there in those
That's
circuits.
cool.
Yeah, that makes that tail there and everything. I wonder if I can. Yeah, makes that tail.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
that tail right. You gotta go a little higher. There he goes. Yeah,
There
the
you
tail
go.
right there, the fish. It makes the tail because the dome is rounded and the light reflects and refracts. So the way that works, it shapes it to where that looks like that tail because it's also moving. So some people think it looks like it's only one circle spotlight, but it's not. It has that tail to it too.
Mhm.
So that's why it's daytime on half the Earth like that. So, anyways,
That's cool.
depending on where you live.
Myron.
Yeah. So today we're going to do Stars of Heaven. I'm excited about this because in this is going to build almost all the parts for all the scales that we need for the 7 sevens, the 7 gem. So on our next video, we're going to do the 7 seals. Then we're going to do 7 vials, 7 trumpets. Then we want to talk about all the rest of the other 4 scales. So, because John wrote them all out, and Daniel kind of showed that they were going to be hidden in a timeline to show you that one is so close to the other. It showed you the double bridle, right? And so, yeah, we're going to basically break that down today, and you're going to see a lot of things that Jesus said is in these synonymous terms. So we got to begin to build those today, and we got to go fast. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Hollywood Hustle TV starts now.
Welcome to the Hollywood Hustle. We can dance all night. Dance all night. You got moves and I got moves. Yes, it's the Hollywood Hustle.
Okay, we're back. So we're going to start with Job. Everything's in Job. Hello, Job. So we're going to go Job 14:18. We're going to try to go fast. And surely the mountain falling comes to nothing, and the rock is removed out of his place. The waters, where the stones, thou washest away the things which grow out of the dust of the earth. Thou destroyest the hope of man. Remember we read this the other day in our other video. The biggest thing I want to point out here now is this mountain. It falls. Falling is come to nothing, and a mountain is a rock, right? And that rock is tied to the word man. Man is tied to the word him, and that's tied to his. And his is tied to countenance. We talked about that the other day, that you can change man by washing him, right? But that means if he's not washed, he's got dust in him. That's the dichotomy, right? And dust, as we know, is the serpent will eat dust all the days of his life, right? But dust is also small of the rock, which is also a stone, which is a mountain, right? So this mountain can mean a man. There it is, man. But it also means his place, because there's his place and his countenance. But countenance also means place, because inside your countenance is ways and places, or channels and chambers, like we talked about, channels and chambers. This is positions and pathways, right? But he can be removed, which is to fall, and come to nothing. And you'll find out later that nothing is empty, which is hell. Hell is the earth hangs upon nothing, it said. And a lot of people like to use that to prove that earth is hanging in space, but that's not what it meant. You have to know synonymous terms. It meant that the earth hangs upon the void and empty space that Lucifer created. And that's... I forgot a little section, so I'm going to put it in here. Talk about the earth hangs upon nothing. Here's the synonymous terms for that. Dead things are formed from under the waters. That's the bottom of the sea. Under the waters, the bottom of the sea. Remember, it says that the clouds cover the bottoms of the sea when the spreadings of the clouds. That's in Job 36. So it says dead things are formed from under the waters and inhabitants thereof. And the inhabitants thereof. So inhabitants are connected to form, right? Dead things are connected to inhabitants, but hell is also connected to death. Hell is naked before him, and destruction hath no covering. If you're naked, you have no covering, right? So death and hell, we know, is the fourth horseman in the four horsemen of the apocalypse, right? The pale horse. So you got death and hell are naked, or hell is naked, but death and hell are connected. Hell is all dead people, right? But hell is naked before him. What's that mean? And destruction hath no covering. Well, hell has no covering right now because it needs this, the north. That's why I talk about the northwood and eastwood, right? So God, he stretches out the north over the empty place. What's the empty place? The empty place is hell, right? And why is it empty? Because it's naked and has no covering. And God hangs the earth upon nothing. Nothing is empty, right? Is naked. And you're dead. When you're dead and you're naked and you're empty and you have nothing, you let hell, you open hell inside you. That's from Isaiah 5. So when God stretches out the north over the empty place, to stretch is to hang. God hung the heavens and the earth like a tent over hell. It is not space. The space is inside the dome, not outside the dome. The dome itself is the stars that's in the firmament, is a hard stone, right? And underneath the earth is hell, and it's empty. That's the physical place, right? And it's hanging upon nothing. But also, this whole entire space was without God, or it was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, right? So God says he binds up the waters in his thick clouds, and the cloud is not rent under him, right? He binds up the waters by the cloud. So what does he need to bind up? He needs to bind up hell. Like hell has no covering, so it needs to be bound up with God's cloud, right? God will hold back the face of his throne, or the face of his garment, right? Can you discover the face of his garment, right? Can you come to him with his double bridle, right? So you have to hold back and bind up, just hold back, same thing, the face of his throne, which is the waters that are nothing and empty or without form and void, right? That is hell. Hell is a physical place, but hell can also be stretched out like a tent, they call it the veil, right? The veil that leaves you blind and empty and nothing. It's a shadow of death, right? Shadow of death is the devil's throne. And he spreads his cloud upon it. God's cloud
is God's throne that he's going to use to bind up the dark waters, right? He compasses the waters with bounds. This is the ice wall. The ice wall is connected to the firmament until the day and night come to an end. Yes, the day and the night are going to come to an end because the stars will fall like figs from a tree, and the sun and the moon are tethered to the stars that's set in the firmament, right? And he has compassed the waters with bounds, but also those boundaries are made not just by binding up, by spreading so that you can't pass over. God spreads his cloud to cover, so that sets up a boundary too. As I said, that's seen in the show of your countenance. So until day and night come to an end, and that we won't need it because you'll be shining bright. Right? We are the snow inside the snow globe, right? When you're bright and shiny, right? The pillars of heaven tremble and are astonished at his reproof, right? The pillars set up boundaries, right? And the earth sets upon pillars, it says. And we scroll down here. It says he divides the sea with his power. That sea needs divided, and by his understanding he smites through the proud. You have to rightly divide the sea. You have to rightly divide the word, right? And the sea, we know, is the heavens. We're going to be seeing that. And by his spirit, God's spirit, which is the sea, he makes the sea, the physical sea and the spiritual sea that's set on you, right? And he makes the heavens, which is the firmament, the sea of glass, right, you stand on. And by his spirit, he hath garnished the heavens. Like when you garnish a Christmas tree, God does that with the heavens. And his hand, which is his spirit, is connected to the heavens, hath formed the crooked serpent. There's formed again. Right? God formed him before he fell, and he knows all the facets that is broken in him. Right? Lo, these are the parts of his ways. God said he will not conceal his parts. Remember for our last video? You're not going to conceal the parts of the Leviathan. He's going to show us all the face of his garment. Right? This is the face of his garment, or the hand of the devil is his parts, but this is also the hand of God. Right? You see both. But how little a portion is heard of him, or you'll see that there's an angel that brings you little thoughts in the night, or we have but a little or a short time, right? That the crooked serpent, anything that's little is crooked and sells you short or leaves you broke or tries to make ends meet, right? You can't make ends meet because you're little. Right? But the thunder of his power, who can understand? And we know the thunder of his power is the seven thunders. That's a whole nother scale. It says right not, because you can't understand it, because you have to go in, that thunder is inside God's house. Okay, and that's his reproof. Anyways, that's that. Back to our regularly scheduled program.
That's this right here. You come to nothing just like Lucifer did, meaning nothing is without God. Right? You have, when you have want, you're nothing, you're without clothing, you're naked. And hell is naked before him, it says, right? And then you'll come to want. Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Well, when you're in nothing, you'll want because you don't have God's presence. You won't be satisfied. So you'll be removed, is fall. But I am focusing on the topics, which is mountain, is stones, is rock, and is man. Those are synonymous terms. But also, I want to focus on like the verbs of the actions of what happens with those positions, like fall. Come to nothing, especially come. It can come and go, but if it goes, it's come to nothing, right? Remove, and that's also destroy. So I have a notes here. I have also in here, I have the word his sons come. Remember, it says come to nothing. The opposite is come to honor. That means if you're not honored, you're dishonored or brought low. That means brought low is that place. So mountain that's been brought low, you'll find out the very, very end. You could say be cast into the sea. Something close to that anyways. That has multiple meanings. Change, pass, see, send away. Oh, yeah, send away. Send away is go away, is pass, which is destroy, which is come to nothing, remove. Yeah, those are all synonymous. You have to know that you can be sent away, right, by change. And I have wash away is send away. Yep, so wash away to send away. You need to know that because you're going to see go away, fade away, vanish away, done away. You can follow that everywhere and you'll see that's painting all infrastructure. So I think that's it for that one. Let's go to Job 19:10. I'm going to go fast on this one. Job 19:10, and we want to see that remove. That word remove is tied to this one right here. 10 says, he has destroyed me. Remember that word destroyed was in that last one? He destroyed me on every side. That means a mountain can have sides. And we learn that, I believe, from Isaiah. And I am gone, and mine hope hath he removed like a tree. Remember, it says the hope of man. Now, this is, you can have a good hope or a bad hope. It depends on if you have counsel of the wicked or counsel of the Lord. Right? But you're gone away by removed. To go away is to be gone away, right? And or send away. If you've been sent away, you're gone, right? And that's removed. Here it says breaks me down. You can break down. This is what they're doing with the deep state. These are all the tactics they're doing on the deep state right now. This is external and internal, meaning it's natural and spiritual. So you can do it in an external grid position scale, or you can do it in an internal grid chambers scale, right? And so you can remove a devil out of your chambers, out of your internal soul, right? And you can also remove the grid that allows them to walk up in you. So those are the actual chambers, and the spirits occupy those chambers inside you, right? So, but there's an every side to this that is tied to like the compass round about you, which is tied to a course, which is tied to a week, 1 week, a 1 week scale. So there is sides to your scale. Okay, I think that's all for that one. Let's do Job 17, 11, and 12. I just want to kind of highlight some of these words for the stars of heaven, which is mountain. We're going to get to it, but I also want to highlight some of the words of breaking down a mountain, or breaking something down. Okay, so we're going to start with Job 17:11 here. It says, my days are past, my purposes are broken off. Remember, your days are your times, and times are connected to every time. There's a purpose for every work, right? But here it says they can be broken off, right? Just like we said before, right there, was broken down, right? And even the thoughts of my heart, your thoughts or your purposes, they can be broken, right? Broken off, right? And that's by they change the night into day. The light is short because of darkness. So by the counsel of the wicked changes the night, we call some evil, good into day. And the light is good is short because of darkness. And they take the good, shorten it by changing it. This shorting. Can you shorten God's hand? Yes, God's hand is the light. That it cannot save. Yes, you can make sure that people don't get delivered, don't get saved, and they're in the hand of the enemy, which is the night, by changing things, change the interpretations. How you do it, everybody, right? Art of separation. Yep, that's art of separation right here. By short, which is to be broken, right? And that's by change. You change the doctrines, you change the interpretation. That's why Job has 2 interpretations, and it was written that way as a Rubik's Cube, so that way you could see that one thing is so close to another, right? It was also to set up to breed the Pharisees so they would kill Jesus. It's kind of like how we've been setting up the deep state. There's tactics of war, and the devil fell for it, and it worked. So, but you can see that your days or thoughts, they can be broken off. And just like or you could say they could be removed. They can be also washed away as well. If they're broke, you can break off bad things off you too. You know what I mean? This works on both sides, both the light and the dark side. You can also change the light, not the night and the day. You can change the day and the night, right? It works vice versa. Okay, so just so you can see all that. Let's go Job 4:18. So yeah, so the break is short, purpose is thoughts, and those are connected to your days. And this is how you change times. Also, everybody, like internal changing times is, okay, external changing times is, removing someone out of the high place, but internal changing times is changing the countenance. That's where you see someone's, like, you confirm Christ in someone. To confirm someone means that you're removing stones and setting up stones, or you're changing the night that's inside them by removing it and putting the day inside them. You're breaking off the thoughts of their heart, right? You're breaking that. And like when you break it, you break the yoke, right? That's one way. But you know, a yoke can be something that creates burdens, right? But there's a good yoke. Jesus said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light, right? Where the hand of the Lord is light upon you, right? That means his grace is on you, where he's not heavy on you and he's angry with you, right? So you have to know those things. All right, let's get to Job 4:18. We're going to build the stars of heaven now. 4:18 says, behold, he puts no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly, or that means error, right? So the angels are his servants, and God did charge them with folly. It says, how much less in them that dwell in houses of clay. Angels can dwell in houses of clay, by the way, whose foundations in the dust, which are crushed before the moth. This is referring to man, referring to us, but it says, how much less. That's a scale right there. In them that dwell in houses of clay. When you, a house, you'll find out a house is a foundation. You need to know that. Because here it says that they were cut down out of time whose foundation was overflown by a flood. You could say they were cut down out of time whose house was overflown by a flood. The devil has that. There's a house of light and there's a house of darkness. You can change the night and the day, or you can change the house, the houses, right? You can change houses. You can change your countenance. This, you'll find out that your house, your countenance is a house of the Holy Spirit, that where, so he can actually cover you. Without a countenance, Holy Spirit can't like rest upon you. Okay? And clay is dust. So now you see that dust, the dust of the earth is clay, right? But your body is a house too. Okay? You have a body that's a house because there's spiritual houses. As you have to know that everything in the natural is a copy of the spiritual. So, like, no, this is only talking about, you know, natural things. Like, no, this is talking about a natural thing and a spiritual thing. You need to know that. One is so close to the other, but the devil will get you focused on the read it carnally versus read it spiritually. We're pulling out all the principles. It does get into angels are, you know, then a spirit passed before my face. The hair of my flesh stood up, right? A spirit can be a spirit of fear. You can see they have a form. You need to know a spirit has a form, because if a spirit has a form, and it's that angel and it's a servant, but you also know a servant has a house, you know what I mean, of clay, and that's the foundation. So you have to, I stood still and I could not discern the form. If you want to be able to discern between good and evil, you need to discern the form or the frames. And those frames and those forms has images. The image of the beast, you know what I mean? You know, so all images have a form and a fashion and frame to it. Times, key, scales, and frames, right? Was before mine eyes. Eyes is connected to spirit, is connected to form, right? Remember, so you got eyes and ears are your voice, right? A voice is what you hear, an image is what you see. What you hear and see, that you testify, and testimony of Jesus Christ is the spirit of prophecy, right? You see it all right there? So that's the foundation. You know, it's talking about a spirit that's a demon, you know what I mean, came up. These are fallen angels. They came up, but you see that it's all this, the network begin to paint that. I just want to see what 13 is real quick. Okay, yeah, so thoughts, they come in your thoughts. It says, now a thing was secretly brought to me, and mine ear received a little. There it is, a little. This is where the word little comes from, everyone. So the little is where you sold short. You know, this light is short because of darkness, or light is little because of darkness. That means a dark spirit was coming in. So in thoughts from the visions of the night, thoughts come in a vision. There's vision is an image. See that? When deep sleep falls on men. So you can be asleep in the night, and that's fear. When fear comes on you, there's deep sleep and there's sleep. Right? There's a measure and scale for that too. How asleep are you? And this spirit was talking, and here's what the spirit says: shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his maker? These are questions that, see, the devil talks in questions, you know, and that God wants to show that he doesn't want to conceal those parts. the parts of the shadow of death, or what makes you go sleep, is they'll ask you questions, right? But inside the questions are answers, right? Yes, you can be pure, not more pure. You can be. God will make you as pure as Him, right? He's just added the word more, right? Right. And to be pure is to be just. You see that, right? And man is mortal, but you can make him immortal. But the reason why he's mortal is because of these fallen devils, right? But man is also a servant. Okay. I think that's all on that one I want to say. Let's go to 15:15. Job 15:15. We're going to stay in there for a minute. And we'll try to go through these parts fast through Job, because we have quite a bit in Isaiah and the smaller prophets too. It says, behold, he puts no trust in his servants, right? No trust in his servants, which God puts no trust in servants. Yea, the heavens are not clean in his sight, right? How much more abominable and filthy is man, which drinks iniquity like water. So man's always drinking something, right? And it says, if he's filthy, he's not clean, right? Here up here says, what is man that he should be clean? He which is born of a woman, that he should be righteous. If you're clean, you're righteous. We know that Jesus had to be born of a woman, but that's why he had to be born a virgin. So I said the whole thing was in here. They knew the problem that we had. That's why they were, the devils were taunting that whole saying. So that thou turns thy spirit against God. Your spirit can turn, right? You can turn from degenerate to regenerate, right? And let such words go out of your mouth. You turn by let, or that words let, right? They go out, they flow. And that's what makes you clean, right? The word of God it cleans you, right? If you're filthy, what cleans you is the water, washing of the water of the word, like it says in Ephesians. And then it says the heavens, though, are connected to the saints. You become a saint when you become clean. But God does put trust in his saints. He doesn't put trust in mortal man, is what it is. Like God has to trust you with the glorious gospel, it says. When you're trusted, when God trusts you, you are a saint. Or when you're a saint, you're trusted, and vice versa, right? The heavens are not clean in sight. The heavens are not clean. This is why I want you to understand the heavens work by water. So if your waters, remember it says the God had to make the firmament, which is the heavens, to separate the waters from the waters. You have to understand that the heavens, or the open firmament, which is the sky, that whole area, even underneath the sky, is the earth was without form and void, or that space that had dirty water, right? It was without form. When we talked about spirit has form, it was without God's form, is what it means, and it was void of understanding, meaning it wasn't in the place of prosperity. It was empty and broken and nothing, versus in the place of the profiting that appears, right? It wasn't valuable, it wasn't built up, it didn't have that form to be built up, it wasn't established anymore, it wasn't built in Christ anymore. Christ was removed from it because of the mindsets were broken and perverted and twisted. Iniquity came in. Iniquity was found in Lucifer, and that when it works like water, it corrupts your waters or your spirit, right? And so the heavens are connected to saints. That's connected to God's sight, what he looks at. God cannot look at the heavens when they're dirty, okay? Although this is surfacely saying something else, you have to look at the principles in there, okay? All right, we're going to go to, last one's going to bring it all home, 25:5 for this one anyways, and then we're going to start to really open up the stars of heaven. You see it, heaven was connected to saints. It says, verse 5, there's a lot here. Behold, even to the moon, and it shines not, yea, the stars are not pure in his sight. If they're not pure, they're not clean, right? So that he just said that. So the stars are not pure in his sight. The heavens are not clean, right? In his sight. It's all in his sight. So the stars are called the heavens, right? So we need to know that stars are heavens. Heavens are stars, right? But the stars are connected to the moon here. And in the flat earth model, which is the revelation of Jesus Christ, that the moon is connected to the stars because stars are set in the firmament. That means the stars are in the firmament because the heavens are the firmament. like it says in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. And the moon is tethered to it because it's electromagnetic, so is the sun. And we need to know that because these things are in a scale. All right? They're not pure. How much less man that is a worm, right? If you're a worm, you're a maggot. That's a scale, and if that's at the bottom, but the top is a light. So here, so verse 3 says, is there any number of his armies? You find out his armies is the stars, right? There is a number to that. And it says, upon whom does not the light arise? The light is what makes you clean, right? You have to drink the light, right? And that's how you rise up. And it says, or how can he be clean that's born of a woman? You can be born again, right? And that's what, right? And Jesus was born of a woman, but he was born as a virgin, or born from a virgin, right? You have to be with God to be clean, right? To be clean is to be justified, like we said before. And that's when you shine, you're clean. But the moon, it says it shines not. We know that the moon does shine, but it's the lesser light. It represents the devil and his knowledge, but it doesn't shining because it's not pure. When you're not pure, you're not going to shine. That can be seen in the show of your countenance, like we've been talking about. But the Son of Man, which is anyone in Adam, right? They're all worms or maggots, right? Because that means if you're a worm or maggot, you're not pure and you're not shining. Okay? So we now have those psalmist terms. Let's go to Job 22:12. Job 22:12. So, yeah, you're going to see, I have to go over these, like I said, not just the synonymous terms and stuff of the stars of heaven, but also the action. So it paints that picture of what happened in heaven before God made the heaven and the earth. It's also the same thing that happens now as concerning the rise and fall of nations. And it's what will happen in the future. You know what I mean? Like how future generations can play this game, and you can know the end from the beginning of how God's going to, wrap up this game and prevail. So let's go to, it's Job 22:12. This begins to now really open things up. So it says, is not God in the height of heaven? And behold the height of the stars, how high they are. Now the stars are high. You need to tether high to stars. Stars are tethered again here to heaven, because we know that heaven's the firmament. That's Genesis 1:6. But here it is again. Or darkness that thou cannot see. You're blind, or there's a veil, the shadow of death. Like I said from Isaiah, we did this on a long time ago video. Abundance of waters cover thee. Right? So remember, so can you lift up your voice that the abundance of waters may cover you? Right? So that waters, that's the abundance of waters that covers you. You'll find out waters is connected to the heavens, like we just said. Right? They're either empty, broken, they're a snare and fear that troubles you, or they're love and peace and it's liberty, and you bind up the breaches, and it's no longer empty and void, but it's full of glory. Christ in you, the hope of glory. It's rich and full of glory, right? The riches of his glory and full of glory, right? And thou sayest, how doth God know? And can God judge through the dark cloud? You can find, like Mary said, the dark cloud is the smoke, which we'll find out that that's all tied to the heavens or the stars as well. Right now we're looking at stars as the heaven, but we also know that stars are the angels. So we have two definitions of stars so far, but it's also the angels work as a spirit, and the spirit works like water. So angels, remember, it was called a covering cherub. Remember, they cover you. Lucifer was called a covering cherub. They can cover you. The heavens actually cover you. But there's an actual firmament, a dome firmament, that it covers us too. It's the shield over the entire earth, right? It's our umbrella from the fire from destroying all of us on the outside. And God's trying to bring it on the inside, but we need to be converted so we don't be destroyed. But this biggest thing I want you to see is verse 14. Thick clouds are a covering. Waters cover you, heavens cover you, stars can cover you, or angels are covering angels, right? They cover you, right? Thick clouds are a covering to him that he sees not, and he walks in the circuit of heaven. The circuit of heaven is the stars of heaven. Now, how can God walk through the circuit of heaven? Well, God tethered himself to the stars, and when they're all tethered together, it creates a circuit, and he walks from star to star to star to star to star to star. Right? That's how he does it. Kind of like how I'm walking this arrow from point to point to point to point to point and walking through it, and I'm walking you through all of it, right? But here it talks about the circuit of heaven. Here's a big one. Hast thou marked the old way? Remember, the circuit's a way which wicked men, remember we talked about man, son of men, wicked men have trodden. So wicked men will try to tread this down, but God will tread them. But wicked men, if they tread the circuit down where you don't see this, then you don't know times. You find out the heavens is times, right? It says, which were cut down out of time. Time is the circuit. So to know your times versus observe times. If you look at the stars, you observe times, right? But if you understand that the stars are all these other things, which is a circuit and heaven and waters that cover you, now you're no longer looking at the calendar and the zodiac, right? You're looking in a horoscope, scope of the horror. You look at the scope of Jerusalem, which is the gyroscope, right? This whole thing is a kaleidoscope or a dreidoscope, right? Which is a Metatron, like that makes all those cool patterns, sacred geometry. You look at that instead, right? And this is which were cut down out of time. That's knowing the times. So that circuit is times. Times are connected to your ways or your works, right? To every time there's a purpose for every work, right? And those stars influence by counsel, and those wicked men have counsel, right? Which they can be cut down though, rise and fall, like we talked about, out of time, and that their foundation, which is a house, right? Remember, foundation's a house, which a house has circuits, and a house also is a cloud. So God's house is a spiritual cloud, but God's house is through the stars. They're all tethered together, and you find out the stars in the daytime you see that makes a blue sapphire stone, right? At night you see them all lit up, right? So that blue sapphire stone, that's why God walks on a pavement of sapphire. That's in Exodus, right? But it's overflown with a flood, or a flood is waters, right? And so that God, when it's overflown, he can pass over or he walks. All right. Last one. Yet he filled their houses. Remember, talk about there is his house's foundation with good things, and there's none good but God. As he walks through the house. But the counsel of the wicked is far from me. So the counsel is how you can cut down that counsel, and that counsel is a foundation. But the counsel builds that circuit and the house of the foundation. Right, and that comes, it's either wicked or it's just, right? And that counsel makes, it's either you drink it like iniquity of water, or you spit it out, right? You shall drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt you, right? You can know the dark arts, it's not going to hurt you when you wake up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Innocent, righteous is innocent, laughed him to scorn. I think that's it. All goes into our substance. Remember, we're talking about substance was thoughts in the last video, 139. That's thoughts, and thoughts is counsel. Yes, our substance is not cut down, but this is also thoughts is the original substance, but substance can also mean your finances, because finances flow like, thoughts. They're overflown. They flow or overflow like a flood. Cash flow, right? Let's see. Yeah, then you have to lay up those words in your heart to build it. And you return to the Lord. It was to be acquainted with the Lord. When I talk about acquainted, right, is to be at peace with God. You're acquainted with Him. That's Psalm 139, I believe. And you turn to Him, you're built up, but you're built up and lay up, right? The law is the words. So you can see all that there. I believe you get it. We got to move on. So from that one, I wanted to show that we got to go to Job 6 next. And then I wanted to show from that one, height of heaven is high, the height of stars, and then the stars are connected to times. So when you look at the stars, you should know your times. But it says in Genesis 1 that if you know the stars are for signs and for seasons, and times are seasons, right? So you see that stars represent, so far stars of heaven represent angels, represents the circuits of heaven, which is times, and represents wicked men, and represents their counsel, so far that we see, which is also a foundation, which is a house. So you have a physical house of clay, but you also have your countenance, which houses the Holy Spirit and angels. Or you'll find out also that once you get quickened and you get into the seven thunders, you operate like an angel, and you can also cover someone in a house of clay. So this is like how you can get revelation from ascended masters or the resurrected saints. A saint can cover you too, because they work just like they're a covering cherub. Because what it is you find out because they walk through walls. Everybody, Jesus walked through walls. We are a wall. We're a firewall. So when you have your fire go up, they walk through the walls. You know what I mean? They walk through the house. You become a big giant Metatron house. Okay. So foundation is way, counsel of the wicked, and let's see. Yeah. I think that's that. And circle of heaven is a cloud. I think we got all that so far. Yeah. Okay. So Job chapter 6. I'm going to make sure that I go over all my notes there. 17. I'll read 15. Says, my brethren. Here it goes again. This is also leading up to another video, which I'm going to do like towards the end. My brethren, remember, it was going to be, always their brothers. Right, have dealt deceitfully. Now, although this was Job, this is also prophesied that this would be, God's people, and be all their brothers. It says, my brethren have dealt deceitfully as a brook, all right, and as the stream of brooks that pass away. So remember, done away is go away, is pass away, right? It's a stream. A brook is a stream, which are blackish. Remember that show Blackish? Yeah, Blackish. And then that's a dark art, by the way. By reason of the ice, so they become black or dark. Black is the black arts or the dark arts, right? But ice is when they're frozen, right? And wherein the snow is hid. Snow is ice, and we know that a brook can stop flowing by being cold, right? It can, so a brook can go cold. So you have cold, but you also have hot right here. So what time they wax warm, and it's a time of vengeance. The times change when you go hot or cold. We know that seasons change by hot or cold, right? Or when the sun and moon go, from the inside of the earth to the outside of the earth, creates winter and summer, depending on where you live, right? So what time they wax warm and they vanish. So they vanish how? By wax warm. So you can get rid of the ice, these cold, counsel of the wicked, which can is a foundation of a brook, a stream, or a vine, right? It's words of men. What time do they wax warm? When you debate people, and you have a hot countenance that has nothing but truth in it, your spirit of fire and a burning. And they vanish, right? That you can melt strongholds in their mind, right? When it's hot, they are consumed. Our God's a consuming fire, and that's how you make things vanish. That's how you break down strongholds, everybody, and you change the desires can vanish too. They're tied to these streams or brooks. Now there's small brooks and there's great brooks. There's little brooks and there's high brooks, right? There's a scale for those, and a mainstream media is a high brook. Where right now we're showing the hot or the pure river of water of life, which is God's presence. That's why online they're talking about there's a movement in the Q movement of people that are becoming the media. Q said you are the news now, right? And that is, we're consuming the fake news and just exposing it, right? It's vanishing, it's drying up, right? Out of their place. You're going to see that the mainstream media platforms are going to go away. See, Mirror says out of their place. Mirror says that they're removed out of their place. This is where it said the brooks now, the places in the countenance, but it's also places external. So you got certain places, high places, or places of a voice, but some are places of law that execute a voice that's written on paper, right? So these places are different places, but all works by the same kind of, setup. All right. The paths of their way, ways and places are tied together. The paths of their way, ways of path, are turned aside. They go to nothing and perish. So nothing is by turned aside, Remember, nothing is also hell. The earth hangs upon nothing, but hell is naked. If you're naked, you're nothing. You know, if you're without clothing, you come to want. So when you're nothing, you perish, which is destroyed. So if they go to nothing, right? Nothing is tied to you're vanishing, right? So you can see that your paradigm can change. Like I had this dream a long time ago. I'll just say this real quick, is that a long time ago I had a dream where I saw all this snow. And I was like, oh, look at all this snow. And my brother was like, my two brothers there, and they're like, what snow? And then the snow started drying up, and then I started seeing all these tire tracks where the car drove before, and I felt this water level depleting out of me. And I realized what was happening. I said, Lord, I don't want to see it that way. And then as I did, I felt the water go back up in me, and then I saw the snow appear, and I was catching it in my hand, and I formed a snowball in my hand, and I reached back and I threw it, and it hit my brother in the chest. He's like, where did you get that snowball? And that's when I saw the sky open up, and I saw heaven. Heaven and the earth was one. That's when the firmament melts, is when you get filled up with the snow. You see snow here, or you see the spirit realm. That's the kingdom of God. The spirit realm, that's the waters, the abundance of waters that cover you. But the snow goes away, which is, that's the Holy Spirit, and that's God himself. So when that comes, like, the Father can walk through that. The Christ can walk through that. All the angels and saints can walk through that. You know what I mean? But it's a grid, like a Wi-Fi. It's a Wi-Fi. It's a web, right? So that web can be rise and fall, deplete and stuff. You can see it on your face and everything, right? This is all in the Bible. I'm showing you everywhere. But I said, Lord, I didn't want to see it that way. You can separate yourself from the snow, and it can wither and dry up by forgetting or remembering, which can make you flourish, right? So that dream was teaching me how the spirit realm works, and this is what we're pointing out here. That operation, as well as the synonymous terms. So far we know that stars, again, is times, and times are connected to your circuit, and God's circuit is through each individual star. We are stars. Men, sons of men, whether wicked or just, are stars. But you have to rise up to be a star. You can be a rising star or a falling star. You have to know that a rising star is God's, or a falling star is the devil's. But you can be a rising falling star. You can be elevated to a place of authority by the devil as a falling star. That's ultimately what he wants. This is why I said you have to remove the fallen stars, right? But you want to set up rising stars, God's stars. Okay? So you find out that the next verse is the troops of Tema looked, and the companies of Sheba waited for them, right? Those troops or companies are also tied. This is tied to stars. A star is an army, is a troop. Remember the armies of heaven, right? They're companies. We form a company when we all come together, right? And verse 21 says, for now you are no thing is nothing, no thing. For now you are no thing, ye see my casting down and are afraid. When you're cast down out of time, whose foundations overflown with the flood, or that stream of brooks, right? So God's a consuming fire, or he's a fiery stream, and you're going to come up against these evil pathways, right? And you got to do that with an army, and that consume is tied to, you can be cast down by consumed. Okay? I want to see, so I have consumed is tied to warm, warm is tied to hot, hot is tied to vanish. Let's look at Job 7:9. I want to highlight the word vanish real quick. It says, as the cloud is consumed, so you can consume the bad clouds, and vanishes away. So he that goes down to the grave shall come up no more. There's rise and fall of a countenance again, everyone. But you can go down to the grave also. There's your falling. That's when you're cast down to the grave. But you can be risen from the dead, right? You can do this before you go to the grave, everyone. You don't have to wait till just keep on, going down to the grave and aging and dying. You can start your rising now. You don't have to wait till Jesus comes back to do it. When you got born again, you started that journey. Now you got to begin to pass all the tests and get your crown before you have 70, 80 years to do it, at the most 120. That's the scale of music. That's all your tones and semitones and scales, right? And you're from one octave to the next. An oct means 8. October is not the 10th month, everyone. October is the 8th month. You have to shift it back to it. They shifted everything. So shift back the 10th month back to the 8th, and then reassign all the original Hebrew names to the months. Okay? That'll help you to wake up a bit. So the cloud can vanish away. You'll find this is a cloud of smoke. It's consumed by God, consuming fire. God has to fill you up, and it'll vanish that way. That old mindset will go away. You renew your mind, right? So he that goes down to the grave, you can, when you renew your mind, you don't have to go down to the grave. You can come up, but you can also make God's cloud to be consumed. This is what the devil did. God removed God's cloud in the 1/3 of the angels. He made it vanish by twisting their minds, by the art of separation. Then he seduced them, turned them out the way to worship him, right? He turned them out the way to go to him. And so you'll see that your cloud is tied to your life. You know, the abundant life, the abundance of waters cover you, as clouds covering you. It's tied to your life, and that's tied to your eyes. Your eyes is the cloud. That's your mind. That's what I said. You're renewing your mind, right? And that also works by the wind. The wind and the waters are the same thing. That's why we have them, but they just do two different operations. Wind sort of flows, but it blows. Flows as blow. You'll find that out in Psalms. But your life, when it's spent, it's cracked, it's broken. And I want to follow this line real quick. Right here, Mirror says they go to nothing, or you just said that. Nothing is when you're broken, and that's when you're cracked. I said that you have a crack in your wall. You have a crack in your thoughts. You're broken off. Your thoughts are broken off. Remember? My days are past. That's when your days are past, or your days begin to go from summer to winter. Right? You begin to go. We know that fall or autumn is the season that begins to which right here is go down. Right? You go down the winter. Right? You begin to see all that stuff. But that's when you're spent. You have nothing left in you. Right? You got to fill up and come back. You got to bind up those breaches. You seal up those cracks. A seal. You need the seal of God so he can spread out his tent. Okay? That's 7. Now we need, let's go to, I don't know if we have 1 Corinthians 13:8.
Yes, we do.
That's a good one. I want to tether this to the New Testament. This is the love chapter. We talked about this briefly in an other video not too long ago. So, but you could say, for we know in part, or by what way is light parted, that scatters the east wind. We know the east wind is the light, and the light is the clouds. And for we know in part, and we prophesy in part, right? Or you have partial knowledge, right? But this is, but when that which is perfect is come, she has to come, versus vanish away. Vanish away is, here it says cease, right? Your tongues will cease. If it ceases, it stops, or it fails. Remember we talked about pass and fail? Your vintage will fail. It will not come. Remember that? So if it fails, it's not coming. But when that which is perfect is come, here it says complete, but we know he's talking about love because it's in a love chapter, right? If it vanishes away, though, it's done away. So charity is love. There it is. So charity never fails. Well, you can actually fail in your charity. You have to pray that someone's charity doesn't fail, because charity doesn't fail, but they can stop operating in charity. Then that's when they are going to fail. You have to bear all things, believe all things, hope all things, and endure all things. You have to do that, right? You can't rejoice in iniquity, but you have to rejoice in truth. Truth is charity. To chair is to share, right? Is giving and receiving versus buying and selling, which is to care. To care for someone, which is to carry them and to bear them. See how it comes together, right? If you're not doing that, you're going to fail. You're always going to fail, right? You're going to fail. Like, no, you can, love never fails. So there you go. All right. Once you learn love, well, never going to know what love is till Jesus comes back. Okay. Listen, learn it right here. You can learn it in the Bible. Read the Bible. That's why you're not learning it. Jesus is going to come back and you're the loser, right? But it can vanish. Or love works like a stream of a brook, right? And it can be, but if you don't know love, you don't know God. If you don't know God, you don't know love, you will fail. if you do know love, you'll pass, and then those prophecies will come to pass. See, prophecies come to pass because you're standing, not falling. You're not falling or failing. You're standing in charity, right? And that's knowledge. The love of God is the knowledge of God, the love of Jesus Christ. But that knowledge is that snow that can vanish. That's what that dreamer just explained. It can vanish away. For we know this knowledge in part. We only know a little bit of love. We have to keep on seeking through the Holy Spirit to have Him reveal it to us. He will reveal it to us, line upon line, precept upon precept, as we're in the Scriptures. You can't be a Christian without reading the Scriptures, everybody. You have to read the Scriptures. You can't be like, I'm a Christian. Oh, what about you as a Christian if you don't know the Scriptures? You have to know them. I'm helping you here. All right, so we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, or love is come, right? Then that which is in part, or that prophesying that's in part, shall be done away. Meaning, you are going to prophesy in fullness now. That partial, the part is done away. That missing part is done away because you put you bound up the breach with love, right here, with love, and now you can prophesy, or you can hear and see through that fiery stream, right? Because what you hear and see, you testify, and the testimony of Jesus Christ is the spirit of prophecy, right? And that's when you're no longer a child, because when you're a child or you're in part, you think as a child, and there's thoughts are connected to knowledge, right? Which is that perfect knowledge. So you have that perfect knowledge, which is thoughts, right? But you got to put those things away, right? To put away is done away, right? That needs to be put away, right? So you have to put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, right? That glass is also, you'll see through a mirror. It's like, well, the water works like a mirror, but the water itself, which is the love, which is God's knowledge, which is God's Spirit, His presence, which is tethered through the stars, which is the Holy Spirit, right? The stars of heaven and the Holy Spirit all work together, right? Now we see through a glass darkly, or the dark arts, but then face to face. God's glass or mirror makes you see your face and His face, right? But for now I know in part, and that's when you're a child, right? Or there's breaches, or you're short. By what way is light parted? Scatters east wind, right? Or they change the night and day, and light is short. The light is short because of darkness, or the light is in part because of darkness. You see that? So the light, for now I know the light partially, but then when I know love, right here, but then shall I know God, who is love, even as also I am known of Him, right? So to know God is to be intimate. That's like, husband and wife have sex with each other and they become one. They know each other. That's face to face. That's when you kiss someone, right? Or you know someone like that. And then the wife is supposed to be the glory of the man's head, or she's supposed to mirror him. There you go. Okay, let's put all that together. Okay, so I had to say that one. Let's go to Job 9, 5 through 9. Job 9, 5 through 9. I was about to say, like, hey, we're almost done. Then I remember all these scriptures at the bottom. Yeah, we might be done in an hour and a half. Yeah. But, so, Job 9, 5 through 9. So, it says, which removes the mountains. God removes mountains. How? And they know not. They don't know. Number one, most people don't know how to do remove and set up, but also they don't know when they're removed, right? The mountains don't know when they're removed is also what it's saying, but really most people don't know how to remove mountains, right? Whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed. Remember Jesus said that, Mark 11? Right? Be thou removed, be cast in the sea, shall not doubt in his heart, but believes in those things which he says shall come to pass. He shall have whatever he says. You have to believe that, you have to understand that the mountains are tied to that whole thing. We're going to get to that by the end. But you can remove mountains, but you have to know. To know is what makes your faith. And doubt's not, you know what I mean? Mountains are tied to whether things come to pass or fail, right? But you have to know how remove and setup works. That's what builds your faith. And you have to know that that's all tied to God's will. Yes, it's God's will to remove the wicked and set up the just. Yes, it's God's will to take dominion. When you know that, you know the game, that builds your faith. Faith comes by hearing, hearing by the word, but the word teaches you dominion of your northwood and dominion of your eastwood, the brightness of your rising, to be holy. Yes, it's God's will for you to be holy, and yes, you can do it in houses of clay. Okay? Which removes the mountains, and they know not, which overturns them in his anger. God's anger is his wrath. He's a consuming fire. That's how he overturns. You'll end up, when you end up hating what God hates and love what he loves, his spirit's turned up on the inside of you. And that's what happened at church home. You know what I mean? Like, I was one with the Holy Spirit. So you overturn people. You have to remove them. Which, here's how you remove them and overturn them, which shakes the earth. You better believe Judah was shaken. He was scared. That's why he dipped out the back and wouldn't debate me. And it's coming again. We're about to turn tables. Don't worry. We're flipping tables. It's coming. And we're not doing it to be violent or aggressive. We're doing it under the power and spirit of God to shake and wake people up, the congregation. We're doing it not to be a bully and a tyrant. We're doing it to protect the sheep and wake them up. These guys are hirelings. Hirelings are wicked. They need to wake up. They're Jesuits. They're Pharisees. They're separating you and making you go to sleep and just taking your money. Someone needs to create justice. You'll fight for social justice for blacks and whites or women, right? Minorities, right? But you won't fight for justice for the saints waking up? Come on. Huh? Which shakes the earth out of her place. The mountains is the place, but the earth is also the mountains. We know the mountains are part of the earth, the rocks, and the rocks of the earth, right? So earth and mountains are tied together. You need to know that. Which shakes and overturns and removes, right? The earth out of her place. Place is earth is mountains. And the pillars thereof tremble. The earth has pillars, but so do mountains are also pillars. Pillars is the third level. You're a mountain when you're day 5. You're a pillar when you're day 3. All right, I can prove that in another video. Thereof tremble. To tremble is to shake, is to quake, is to be removed, right? Which commands the sun. The sun is the earth, is the mountains, right? He commands the sun because the sun's a high place. The mountains are high and lifted up. He commands the sun that it rises not and sails up the stars. The star, isn't not the sun a star? Yes, the stars are so there is the sun, moon, stars, right? And mountains and the earth. Those are all the elements, everybody. These are in the scales. You need to know this. These are your external frame positions. This is an external frame, which is a place, position. So a place is a star, is a sun, is a earth, is a mountain, right? Which are people, which are devils or angels, which God walks through those things, right? They have circuits. The sun has a circuit. The stars have courses. And the earth, it doesn't, well, the mountains, they have positions, right? But these have circuits. God walks through that. That's why God, like we walk through the earth, though. Men walk through the earth. That's why God gave man dominion. But God walks through our thoughts. So man walks through the earth. So that's why the earth is also people. So he seals them up. When he seals them up, they rise not. You know. So here's the key, though, which alone spreads out the heavens, right? So God spreads out the heavens. Stars are the heavens, remember? And God does that to what? Tread upon the waves of the sea. You find out, even though God treads upon the waves of the sea, Jesus can walk on water, you find out that the sea is the heavens. Because the sea was, everything's all one, but they're all rightly divided. They're all separate things, but they're all one. It's kind of like you are your mother and your father, but you're not. You know what I mean? You're all kind of one, but you're not. You're all separated. You're all different things, but you're all plugged into the same thing. You can rightly divide the word. So the heavens are the sea. That's the sea of glass, right? The sea of glass that we stand on. But there's also a sea of glass in your show of your countenance. You don't walk on that, but God does walk on it. We don't walk on people, right? Well, sort of. You're gonna walk on devils, like, and people will go be in the graves and stuff. So you kind of walk over them, you know not. So it's all semantics in the end, like how to twist it to fit your paradigm, right? So devils try to get twisted so you go to sleep. God tries to untwist it so you wake up and understand his methods and his plan of redemption. So you work with him, right? So which alone he spreads out. You find out he spreads to treads by his commandments. You need to know that. So, and he walks on those waves like light waves. That's how you're hearing me right now, is through a light wave, right? And it says, which makes Arcturus. So God spreads and treads to make. He makes inside you. And that's the things, that's the great things that he does without number, right? You know what I mean? We already went over that before, but he makes Arcturus, Orion, Pleiades, and the chambers of the south. Those are the stars of heaven. You'll see those again in 38, 31. The chambers are, remember, there's channels and chambers. That's the internal rooms and lots. That's the internal grid that these stars are inside. That's the devils or the angels. All right, angels are good stars, devils are bad stars. But God tethers through those things. That's how he walks or treads upon the waves of the sea, or he walks in the circuit of heaven. A circuit has a wave, right? A circuit of heaven, heavens is the sea. It's the same thing, just showing you it's multifaceted to let you hit every angle. And there's a scale to that, and that's what he does. But if it's past your finding out, you don't know, you can't read this. You're looking at the nature and you went to sleep. But if I showed you all this stuff, you understand the spiritual network, the spiritual kingdom behind that, then it's not past your finding out. You understand what God does. And that great thing is the great and precious things that he does. The precious wisdom that I just gave you right there. That's the great things, the great and precious, how great and precious are his thoughts towards us, right? The wonderful, we're wonderful, fearfully and wonderfully made, right? Which is make. So he makes us the next Arcturus and Orion and Pleiades. We replace those old ones, right? And become chambers of the north. Okay, so, hold on, see. Lo, he goes, goes by me, passes by me, perceive not, take away, what doest thou? Okay, withdraws, anger. Okay, that's it. Okay. I just want to make sure I had everything. So, just a recap. Heavens are the sea. Mountains is the earth, is the suns, the stars is the place, is the pillars. Chambers of the south are Arcturus, Orion, Pleiades, right? To rise not, you have to seal up. I do want to go to a couple things here, because tread is spread. Let's go to Job 36, 29 and 30. Yeah, and I want to highlight spread real quick. Remember, just to bring it back to your remembrance, also, can any understand the spreadings of the clouds and the noise of his tabernacle? Right? God's cloud needs spread, right? Behold, he spreads his light upon it. See, I told you the light and the tabernacle and the clouds are all tied together. Remember, tabernacle is a house, right? And that's your countenance, that's your clothing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We are God's tent. You find out that God's tent and tabernacle is the heavens. Like, he stretches out the heavens like a tent to dwell in, it says, right? In Jeremiah. I believe, I think we have that one here. Yeah, we'll go to that one next. But here's a cloud, is a tabernacle, is a light, and he spreads and it covers the bottom of the sea. We know the bottom of the sea is the doorway where hell is. For by them judges he the people. You put on the spirit of burning and of judgment. When you do that, that's when the God's consuming fire on you. Yes, you become a judge, you become a king, you become a priest in fullness with God's spirit on you. When you're glowing like fire, you start carrying out judgment, casting out devils, blind see, lame walk, all that stuff, dead or raised. And then you'll find out that you remove those stars, the old stars, and you become a star. That's removing a setup. That's the Eastwood way. They do it by the fire, but you can do it through God's wisdom, which the NSA and the military is doing it that way. And you make those stars fall like figs from a tree, and you put God's stars or God's judges, God's the military, God's people in those high places, right? You execute judgment, right? And that's meat. All this stuff is meat, right? And so, but once you see that spread is cover is the clouds, right? The spreadings of the clouds, right? He spreads out the heavens, it said. But here says the spreadings of the clouds. So you need to know how heaven comes and how heaven goes. Meaning the heavens can change to either hell, as a shadow of death, or the heavens can change into heaven as the glory cloud, right? And that's all on your countenance, at the brightness of your rising from stone to star as a rising star, or a stone to star as a falling star. Right? And that all works by the voices, or a noise is a voice by a council. All right. And there's that one. Let's go to Job 37:18. Job 37:18. And this is a good one. Hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong and as a molten looking glass? Remember, this is the firmament, everyone. This is, I told you, remember they said you'll stand on the sea of glass in Revelation 15:2? Have you with him? When you're with God, here's what you do. Spread out the sky. The sky needs redeemed too. Everyone remember the heavens are filthy. The heavens are also the open firmament, which is the sky. There's the closed firmament, which is the dome. There's open firmament, which is the sky, where the clouds are, where the sun and moon are resting. Because the heavens itself, there's the heavens, which is the sky, the heaven of heavens, which is the firmament, and the third heaven, which is outside the dome. That's where God dwells. That's what the other 2/3 are of the angels, right? But you have you with him, with God. This is what God's trying to do, because God does this already out there. Spread out the sky. You have to spread out the sky. Yes, you can do this, which is strong, right? You have to be strong in the Lord and the power of his might to do this. And that strong is firm. And the firmament's also, this is multifaceted. The firmament is a copy of what you can do in the spirit, which is shown in the light of your countenance, right? You can see that record, right? Is it strong and as a molten or melted or a fiery looking glass? Of, God's a consuming fire, right? Glass is a mirror, and you look into it, right? So, but here there it talks about, do you know the balancings of the clouds, the wondrous works of him that's perfect in knowledge? The balancing of clouds is scale. Remember we talked about the scale, right? And that cloud can shine. Do you know when God disposes them and causes the light of his cloud to shine? That cloud can shine. You got to make yourself shine, right? And that's the wondrous works that's perfect. What makes you perfect is shine, right? So when you're perfect, you're shining. You can see that. And that all works by knowing, right? And that's knowledge. That's God's work. God's work is what you're doing with him, which is his work is to spread. And how do you spread? How your garments are warm or shining and perfect when he quiets the earth by the south wind. You got to quiet the earth. Remember it said that my spirits go forth, and it went forth to quiet the earth in the book of Zechariah. Like there's those angels and demons go out and they quiet the earth. If the heavens are quiet, that's not good, because they need to rejoice. If the earth is quiet, that's not good. You know what I mean? Because the earth is quiet, heaven's not rejoicing. If the heavens, the earth is loud, the heavens are rejoicing, right? God is loud. He's a sound of thunder. You know what I mean? So that's all that right there. And you have to teach us what we shall say unto him. God has to teach us this, which I'm doing right now. You have to consider one of the works of God. Okay? So let's go to Jeremiah 10:12. Jeremiah 10:12. He has made the earth by his power. He has established the world by his wisdom. The earth is also the world. Remember that. By his wisdom. His wisdom is his power. He makes, or made, is established. Right? And he has stretched out the heavens by his discretion. Here it says stretched out the heavens. So how does God do it? He stretched out by discretion. So when we have discretion, we can stretch out too. Or remain in his image. How do we do that? When he utters his voice, or lifts up his voice that the abundance of waters may cover you. Right? Can you lift up your voice that the abundance of waters may cover you? Can you with him spread out the sky? With him? No, only God does it. No, can you with him? Can you with him? Can you with him? Wake up. Stop believing only God will do it. Okay? I'm tired of that crap. Everyone stop believing that. Wake up. This is for your own good. Stop believing dumb stuff and like, God just rescue me. No, just be a champion, okay? Here's what you do. God utters his voice and you can lift up your voice. Okay, good. All right, glad we got that clear. When he utters his voice, there's a multitude of waters in the heavens, right? There's a multitude, or the abundance of waters may cover you. A multitude of waters in the heavens, right? You want a multitude and you want abundance, right? All this works. That's what I said. You have to consider the cause of the poor. If you're being dried up and being poor spiritually, and you've heard everything in less than 5 years and nothing's changing, like something's wrong. Consider, right? In the day of adversity, consider Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. The author. Consider that you might have a bad author, a bad writer, a bad scribe. Okay. I think you guys get my point. He has made the earth by his power, established the world by his wisdom. His wisdom is his power, which is, we know that is the balancings of the clouds. He has stretched out the heavens by his discretion, we know stretch out is spread out. When he uttered his voice, the voice is where the power comes from, which is his voice is the word of God, which is everything we're reading. There's a multitude of waters in the heavens. See, waters are in the heavens. Waters are connected to heavens. Again, he causes the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. Yes, earth has an end. It's a border wall. He makes lightnings with rain and brings forth the wind out of his treasuries. All right? He had to bring forth the wind. It means bring forth is from the beginning of the commandment to restore. Right? You have to command. Right? You have to command and utter to bring that power and that wisdom to stretch out the heavens. You put that inside, it's like the sower soweth the word. That's how that works. And the waters cover you, the bunch of waters cover you, and that goes into the air, which is called the heavens or the sky. And then you find out when the sky is on fire, because your face is on fire, then the firmament melts, and then we're all one again. All right, go up here to verse 20. This is where, remember we talked about that woe before, like, woe, the crown has fallen from my head. You also find out that when the crown has fallen from your head, in that last video that we just did, woe is me for my hurt, my wound. If you're hurt, if you have a wound, you're hurt. You're hurt if your wound is grievous. Remember, Jesus bore our griefs and our sorrows. But I said, truly, this is grief, and I must bear it. Jesus bore all this stuff on the cross, so you don't have to. My tabernacle is spoiled. Do you know the noise of his tabernacle? Well, that means, how do you spoil God's noise of his voice? All my cords are broken. My days are past. My purposes are broken off. Even the thoughts of my heart. Oh, the thoughts of your heart have cords? Yes. You corded or tethered together. We're all tethered together. And so the thoughts inside you are all tethered together. These are all cords, everybody, what I'm doing. These are all, this is a thought. When I say tabernacle, you think of a picture, an image. That's a form. And then I say cord, right? And that tabernacle can be broken and spoiled. But tabernacle that's broken and spoiled is, my children are gone forth of me, or my stars are gone. The angels were gone forth of him. The angels, the 130 angels left him, right? You can leave God. That's how heaven falls apart. The cords were broken. God's tabernacle was spoiled. This happens all the time in every nation, every generation. You can follow after the 130 angels, the devils, and you can follow after the 200 watchers, you know, that did all that stuff, you know what I mean, that took on flesh. Well, then they had babies. They multiplied. They're wandering spirits. You can follow after them. You can follow after the ways of Baal, right? And then you're God's children, which is the sons of Zion, that are gone forth of him. Then you go away. That's when the morning goes away, right? And they are not, or they are come to nothing. You know what I mean? They're nothing. Or they're naked, they're empty, right? There is none to stretch forth, spread forth and stretch forth my tent. Tent is tabernacle, right? Anymore. And to set up my curtains. God's curtain is his tent, is his tabernacle, but you have to set it up. Can you set the dominion thereof in the earth? How do you do that? For the pastors are become brutish. Oh, look. About to flip tables, everybody. Pastors were coming. Okay? Pastors are shepherds. Right? They're dull-hearted. What makes them dull-hearted? I don't know. Maybe they're broken and spoiled of the stones of fire and they have stones of emptiness in them. Right? They're brutish like a natural brute beast. Right? They have not sought the Lord. Therefore, they shall not prosper. Not seeking the Lord or going forth of him is the same thing. To leave God. You mean these pastors leave God? Well, it's not always their fault. They've been separated from God by the lying doctrines. They make you far from God by twisting, saying, God, you're not going to know until you go to heaven and all this stuff, you know. And Paul was sick and blind and, you know, but he was still healing people somehow, but yet he was sick and blind and, you know, I mean, that was his thorn and it was never taken from him, but, you know, then he was martyred and they lie to you, everybody. They you know, and it's because the scribes changed it in the theology schools and seminaries because of the fathers. You know what I mean? We've been infiltrated, right? Therefore, they shall not prosper. That means if the opposite, remember, God's word will go forth and prosper. It bring forth and bring that, they'll prosper which it was sent to do. Remember that in Isaiah? If you're not prospering, the word's not going forth. That means you're not lifting up your voice. The abundance of waters may cover you. And when abundance of waters cover you, you prosper. Then all your flocks shall be scattered. Everyone is scattered right now. Just because you gather together in a church on every Sunday doesn't mean that you're not internally scattered. You're not prospering spiritually. You're dull-hearted. No one's reading the scriptures. They're going for a potluck. They're going for a missions trip. They're going to say they went to Cabo in Africa trip, right? This one chick on Hillsong said she went to some foreign country and was talking about the whole time. Just bragging about how they're traveling. Bragging about how they're meeting other people in high places, and no one's changing. No one's changing. I just saw Sean Bowles was like, oh, I saw Bill Johnson. Yeah, but who did you change? You didn't. You're bragging about who you're being seen with. You're not bragging about anyone's conversions, anyone's uprising. You're not talking about any of that. You're showing all the stuff you're doing. You're showing yourself out at dinner with your wife, and you look no different than Hollywood. It's all about me, 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 me. You magnify yourself and you talk about yourself. You never lift up anyone's countenance. No one's converted. No one's delivered. No one's changed. Men look like women. Women look like men. And women take their teachings and justify it, or twist the teachings and try to have them look like the world. You know, they all look like the world and everything, and they're like a lesbian. All the women in the church are like lesbians and stuff. Anyways, so so God wants to stretch forth His tent and set that up. The only way you can set that up is you got to piss people off. Sorry, you're gonna make people angry. You got to go lift up people's skirts and discover the foundation. You got to stretch forth God's tent. If they're not stretched forth, it's broken and spoiled. Right? You have to set up God's tent and stretch forth. The only way you can do that is bring His children back. And the way you do that is lift up, you got to heal those hurts and those wounds. And not just tell them what Jesus did on the cross. Everyone knows what Jesus did on the cross. But you have to give them the counsel now, the secret and the mysteries of God. Give them from milk to meat. All right? So they're not scattered and dull-hearted anymore. All right? Let's go to Isaiah 44:24. Isaiah 44:24. You know what I mean? Like, so people in the church, they look like, like women still shave their heads and stuff, and men are like really soft and talk like this, and the men are like so pandered to the women, they're so cucked. Like, that's Ahab, that's emasculated. You don't want to do that. And women, stop trying to be how come every woman's a shepherd nowadays? And you guys have no skill. And you look and you protect the world, and you fight for the world, and then when someone comes against it, you say we're judgmental. Is it not for them to know judgment? Like, they're under just tell them what Jesus did for them. No, they don't care. No, you tell them repent. You tell them that to warn them of the wrath to come. You gotta tell them how curses work: sickness, disease, poverty, fear, failure, demons. You gotta show them how that stuff works. Yeah, like Jesus will deliver you, but most of you guys don't even have all the doctrines. You still think you're on a pagan planet. That's pagan. Like, stop calling Mars is a Greek god, everyone. Jupiter's a Greek god. Well, stop celebrating Christmas. That's Nimrod's birthday. Like, Jesus doesn't care as long as we put his name on it. Okay, you're a scumbag. If you think that, you're a scumbag. You're not even close to God. You don't understand God's heart. You don't know how He feels about it. There's things that make God angry. You know what I mean? God is a lion, but He's also a lamb. Stop making Jesus some cuck. Like Jesus wouldn't judge them, and we don't want to offend them. Because you think you're being a Pharisee if you're... like, on the right wing of art of separation, if you're not a Pharisee, you're a cuck. Right? If you're not a cuck, you're a Pharisee. Come on, man. You can judge. The middle of the road is you need to judge and be a father. You need to correct people. You can be masculine as a man. Women need to follow the man. Men need to follow God. And men need to start being bold and start leading with skill. The Bible gives you 3 skills: to know the end from the beginning. Don't forget that. To know dominion. To take dominion over your household, over your wife. Not just tell her what to do, everyone. Lead her with skill so she's not a brat. So she's doesn't have bad behavior and doesn't gossip and talk with women. And the only thing she does is boast of her children and how great they are, and boast how much money her husband makes and what I got next and what I'm doing next and what I'm wearing. Right? Start boasting of the brightness of your rising. That's what women need to do. And men need to do that first. And then start being the shepherds over the communities and see what that looks like. You know what I mean? And you need to know the thoughts and intents. Lastly, the thoughts and intents of the heart. That is knowing the end from the beginning. That is the skill. You need to know thoughts and intents of someone's heart because you need to take out the stones of emptiness and put in the stones of fire. Those are wicked ways that empty you out, and righteous ways that fill you up. Yes, you can be perfect. Yes, you can be righteous. And yes, you got to judge people. Yes, you got to tell homosexuals, no, they're not beautiful. Homosexuals are not beautiful. There's no such thing as a beautiful gay man. That's a stench in God's nostrils. They're putting. Do you not see that their energy is dark and they're putting off this dark countenance? You know what I mean? That's like stinky flies. You know what I mean? You got to put a beautiful aroma so they're well pleasing to God, and you can tell them how that works. You know what I mean? You don't measure them by yourself. You measure them according to the standards and scales that you're playing by Christ. You know what I mean? The game that you're playing. All right, Isaiah 44:24 says, "Thus saith the Lord, thy Redeemer, and he that formed thee from the womb. I am the Lord that makes all things." God forms you from the womb, but this isn't just physical, everyone. Remember, there's a spiritual side to everyone. I'm the Lord that makes all things, right? How does he do that? That stretches forth the heavens alone, that spreads abroad the earth by myself. The heavens is the earth. They're all one and the same thing, although they're part of the same thread. But God forms by stretch and spread. When he stretches out the heavens, or spreads out the heavens, like, you know what I mean? He spreads out the heavens and treads upon the waves of the sea. And also he stretches out the heavens like a tent to dwell in. So stretch is spread, but it's by form or make. You have to make, and that's how you're redeemed. Remember it says, in the morning my redemption will come. It's a Psalm 49. But this is, if you want to be redeemed, you have to be formed. I travail till Christ be formed in you. That's what I'm doing. I grieve and I pain, I travail, and I intercede for all of you till Christ be formed in you. That's why I do this channel. You know, I'm trying to form Christ in you so you get on the right-hand thing, so you come up to a higher place. Formed is right here, that confirms. Remember, it says he confirms his covenant with many for 1 week. That's the dark side of things. Here's God that confirms the word of his servant. I'm confirming the word in you right now. I'm forming the word. I'm showing you how that it's not just the heaven stretch and spread. I'm spreading right now the word of the Lord. The word of the Lord makes the heavens. All right, we'll say that here in a second. He confirms the word of his servant and performs the counsel of his messengers. Word is counsel. The counsel of the Lord is what I'm giving you. This is the word I'm giving you. I'm confirming in you so God can perform in you, which is to form those words so he can stretch and spread heaven through you, in you. And God walks in the circuits of heaven. Remember, he walks in that circuit of heaven. He treads upon the waves of the sea, or he comes. His kingdom come when he comes, right? And right here is by being built. I'm trying to raise you up the decayed places of your waste. If you're waste and decayed, you're gone forth of God. You're dull-hearted, right? Right? And so you need to be risen up, right? It says that, say it to Jerusalem. Say to Jerusalem, you are Jerusalem, everyone. Thou shalt be inhabited. You're going to be inhabited by who? God. To the cities of Judah. I'm talking to the Jew first, and also the Greek or the Gentiles. So you need to rise up, okay? So we're going to go Job 12. Job 12. Then I might have to beeline these things. Job 12. Job 12, 14 and 25. And Job 12, 14, 25. I'll come back to the word makes the heavens. I'll come back to that. 14 says, this is the tactics of the patriots right now, everybody. You can do this externally and internally. This is what God does and what we do. Can you, with him, spread out the sky? We're doing that right now. We're working with God, with the Q movement, with the patriots. We're doing it right now on our social media, right? And we're also doing it internally through the spiritual principles right here. Behold, he breaks down and it cannot be built again. We're breaking down the lies of the Babylonian dark arts. We don't want women feminists. We want them to be loving, kind women. We want the men to lead, because women, you're just leading as a tyrant, a brat. You're hateful. You have no skill. And then when a guy comes in that's dominant, like, you hate him. You're like, you just talk a lot, right? I talk a lot, don't I? Yes, because I want to build you up and break you down. Yes, I want to break you down so that your bad ways and your carnality can't be built again. Yes, so I can shut up hell. and he shuts up a man. What do we shut up? Shut up hell. That's what I'm trying to shut up hell in you, right? And there can be no opening. How do you shut and open? Break and build. There you go. Behold, he withholds the waters. How is waters withheld? Break and build. The waters come out of that opening, by the way, everyone. And the waters is the heavens. Remember, can you lift up your voice that the bunch of waters may cover you? You open heaven, the waters cover you, right? But you can withhold that, and then you can dry up. Yes, you've gone forth of God, and God's tent is fallen, and you're darkened, and you look like the shadow of death, especially if you're on the progressive left side of things, or if you're a neocon, you fight Israel's wars, right? You believe in shedding innocent blood, right? Like, you shouldn't do that, right? You're dried up. Also, he sends them out, which what I'm doing right now, we're sending out the waters, and they overturn the earth. Remember I said he overturns the mountains? He overturns those mountains by the roots, it says. Mirror says the root of the matter is found in me, Job said. The root of the matter is found in the book of Job, which is all right here, everyone. The roots of all matter is found here, because these all the principles. Everything was written in one book, and the rest of everything comes from this. So even the teachings of Jesus came from Job. Job is the master key. So it's the cornerstone. Jesus is the chief cornerstone because he is the Word, and the Word is in Job. So that's God's job. And they overturn the earth. With him is strength. When you're with God, you have strength. And wisdom. Wisdom is strength, strength is wisdom when you're with him. The deceived and deceiver are his, right? So God, it says those are his. Like, God knows those people. He knows how that works, how deception works, right? And it all works by the same way as this too. He can send out lies, right? He leads counselors away spoiled. Deceive and deceive work by counsel, right? Those are counsel of the wicked. Let's scroll down a little bit. The counsel of the wicked, right? He leads away counselors spoiled and makes the judges fools, right? Those are judges that are counselors of the wicked, right? Those are judges or people in the high places. And also he looses the bond of kings, right? Those kings will put a bond on you. You can loose those bonds or those bands, right? Can you loosen the bands of Orion, right? This is in Job 38. And girds their loins with a girdle, right? To gird is to bind up. To gird is to bind or band. Which is to seal, right? Either bind or loose. So you can bind up the loins of his loins with a girdle, waist with a belt. He leads princes. Princes are kings. Away spoiled and overthrows the mighty. Mighty is also means princes and kings and judges, but it also means the mighty ones like the Gaborim, which is the giants, the devils, which they work. Those fallen angels work inside the kings of the earth, right? He overthrows those. How do you overthrow? By spoiling, shaking, and removing to plunder them. He removes away the speech of the trusty. You better believe. All you guys that are dodging me on debates or try to block me, like, you can try to like use the grid to avoid me and shut doors, but you know, every time if we debate, I remove your speech and you be found empty. And that's what. So we want to break you down, expose you, your lie, kind of like in My Cousin Vinny, that movie. My Cousin Vinny is like, I'm done with this one. I'm done with that one. When he's questioning the witnesses, that's what I want to do. You remove away their speech. You show their hand. That's what God does. That's art of logic and rhetoric. He removes away the speech, and this is what I do to people all the time if we can finish a debate. He removes away the speech, not get blocked on Facebook for 30 days. He removes away the speech of the trustee. He takes away. He removes by takeaway. Lord give it, the Lord take it away. He does take away, but not in the way that Job was saying. The understanding of the aged. And you see that happened also in the book of Job. You want to take away and here it says discernment. Understanding is discernment. You take away things that keep you blind and you give real discernment, which I'm doing right now. I'm taking away the surface and I'm giving the deep right here, the depths. That's why the depths of the sea, so you can see, right? He pours contempt upon princes and weakens the strength of the mighty. He removes by pour, he pours out, right? Rains down in showers or spreads and treads by pour. Right, or make and establish to water and to rain. He pours contempt upon princes and weakens the strength of the mighty. You got to weaken the hand of the enemy, everyone, and that's by removing. You weaken them by removing them out of the high places. Right? He discovers the deep things out of darkness and brings out to light the shadow of death. I'm showing you the shadow of death, yes, feminism is a shadow of death. Yes, Black Lives Matter is a shadow of death. Yes, LGBTQP is a shadow of death. Yes, KKK is a shadow of death. Yes, Pharisees are a shadow of death. Yes, if planets and solar system is a shadow of death. Yes, money changing and pyramid schemes is a shadow of death. We're discovering all those things, right? Stop putting people in debt to you. He increases the nations, rising of the nations, and destroys them, fall of the nations. He enlarges the nations, right, which is rise, and straightens them again, like a straight jacket. So yeah, the nations rise and fall by all that works by discovering and bringing out, right? That's what we're doing. We're lifting up skirt on the deep state and the fake news, which is the scribes. And you find out it's the Hollywood's the Sadducees, the Pharisees are in the church, the money changers are in the government, it's the money system, that's a Federal Reserve, we're kicking out that out. It's all the same system, everyone. We're making the Babylon fall out of our nation, and God's going to increase our nation apart from the Babylonian system that he's destroying right now, or the world. He's destroying the world, or the mountains, he's uprooting them by the roots, right? He enlarges the nations. The nations are tied to kings and princes and judges, right? He takes away the heart of the chief of the people. The people are the nations of the earth. The people of the earth is the nations. There's chief of those, right? And cause them to wander in wilderness where there is no way, and they grope in the darkness. Darkness is wilderness, without light, and he makes them to stagger like a drunken man. Remember that, stagger like a drunken man. How they stagger like a drunken man? By being dark and being in a wilderness. Right? So there's that one. I think we got all those words. By the way, shut up is seal up, right? Seal up was in Job 9. He seals up the stars. He commands the sun that rises night, seals up stars. And here in that last one, it just said that he shuts up and there could be no opening. So shut up is a seal up. All right, let's go Job 25:2. Job 25:2. I'm just going to say this one real quick. Yeah, I'm probably going to need all 30 minutes. It's going to be our video, like I said last night. All right. Dominion and fear are with him. That's dominion theology. Yes, we know. Dominion theology. Dominion and fear are with God. Well, they're with God. They're not with us. You know? No, if you're with God, it's with God. And that's with God. It's with you. Okay? He said, I'll take of mine and show it unto you. So dominion and fear are with God. He makes peace in his high places. So we know high places. Remember stars, how high they are? And there says that the word place is tied to mountain, which is tied to star, which is tied to sun, that's all dominion. Dominion is tied to high places. So yes, when you take dominion, this is like our outro song, take dominion. You take dominion internally and externally. That's eastward and northward, right? Get rid of the southward and westward. You get rid of the dark policies, the social policies that break people down to make women look like lesbians and men look like gay men, like homosexuals, right? You make sure there's no pedophilia so they can't just keep that going. And then you get rid of the art of separation, the lying doctrines, the darkened counsel of Job, right? So yes, we got to go into the church and flip those tables over. Yes, we got to lift up the skirt on the shepherds. You have to. Otherwise, people won't grow. And so if they call us tyrants, it's like, is Donald Trump a traitor for working with Russia? It wasn't. He was colluding with Russia, but not in. It was a Russian hoax in that he wasn't sabotaging the elections. He was working with Russia to kick out the banks. So if you come against the deep state, is it treason? No, because it's not. To them it is, because it's not part of our government, but they want to be part of our government. We want to kick it out because it's a disease, right? So it's the same thing. So when you go lift up a pastor, am I a tyrant? Am I the bad guy for lifting up a skirt on a pastor because I'm looking out for the sheep? Am I the bad guy for doing that? Or am I the good guy? Depends on what perception you're looking at. If you're fighting for the people to stay asleep, then I'm the bad guy. But if you're fighting, if we're fighting to wake the people up, if I come against feminism and I'm the bad guy for coming against feminism, like, yeah, you come against feminists. Yes, because I want the women to be virtuous women. I want them to be better. Now, am I still the bad guy? Because I'm trying to protect the women and make them better than what they are now? Well, it's not your job. Is it not? Is it not for you to know judgment? If it's not a job of a priest and a king and an apostle and teacher to do that, whose job is it? It's God's. Then why did he give us disciples? Why did he said, go ye preach the gospel to every creature? We're just supposed to preach Jesus on the cross and that's it? We're not supposed to make disciples? That's the argument right there. We make disciples. I win. Okay. Anyways, Job 38, 31, 32. There's a lot to say and there's a lot to show. Stars of heaven. Stars of heaven. Who are they? Can you bind the sweet influences of Pleiades? That's what we're doing. We're binding up those ways, the dark counsel by words without knowledge in the church, and we're also binding up the art of seduction, the Sadducees and Pharisees. We're coming against both of them right now. Can you bind the sweet influence of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Binding and loosening is where Jesus got it from, right? Where you bind in earth is bound in heaven, where you loose on earth is loose in heaven, right? You got to do it in the earth, and heaven moves, and heaven backs you up to give you the power to remove the people out of the high places. That's what these are. Can you bring forth Mazzaroth in his season? Yes, you can change the seasons. And the seasons are connected to the stars of heaven. That's what it says in Genesis. Can you guide Arcturus with his sons? Guide is influence. And you do all that by bring forth. That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing forth the truth right now. And I'm binding your dark ways. And I'm trying to loosen God through you by waking you up, right? You know, so change your ways, right? So notice how the ordinances of heaven, the ordinance of heaven is the stars of heaven, right? Which is the circuits of heaven. The stars are all tethered together. All the high places, they're all you ever believe the money changers work with Hollywood, work with the media, right? So, but we're working with Q, working with the president, working with the patriots, working with, you know, the new republic coming in. We're working with the any born again person that's living up their eyes, right? And that's how you set the dominion thereof in the earth. You gotta set the dominion, which is tied to the heavens, which is tied to these are the stars of heaven. These are the chambers of the south. This is going to be replaced by the church, right? The church is supposed to give you influence. The church is supposed to guide you, and they're trying to do that in a way that's like they're trying to make the Hillsong bands. Like they're trying to dress like Hollywood and LA, and they're trying to get like we're trendy and we're doing this and that. So women shave their heads and like this is what's in right now. This is this in thing, and men are talking like this and everything because it's the times. It's what we do, and we don't want to judge anyone. And so you have these bands that are like, you know, all jacked up on caffeine and smoking e-vape and stuff, like Breaking Benjamin. I'm sorry, Derek Huff, Breaking Benjamin was not sent by God. They used to walk with God, but they were turned out the way. They went Pharisee. That video, they had a planet and solar system. That's all Babylonian Jesuit. That's pagan. All this, the pagan doctrines that were in the Catholic Church that made the first church fall are also in the Protestant Church. You know, they've just been unraveling some of them. Like you can get born again. You can get filled with the Holy Spirit, speaking other tongues. You know, the 7 spheres of influence. You know, there are apostles for today. There are gifts of the Holy Spirit. But no one's a master. Everyone's babies trying to figure out how it works. You know what I mean? They still, you know, observe times and, you know, believe in a planet. All the foundation's been removed. So, okay, we're going to go to Isaiah 13. Now this is all just scriptures. Ooh, I have 2 there. Yeah, there's a lot still.
What verse?
13. 13. If we go down to 10:11 first. 10:11. So 10:11 says, "For the stars of heaven and the constellations are stars, right thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine." Jesus quoted this. This is what we're building to, everyone. So, but here you have to know that when this all happens, behold, the day of the Lord comes cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Sinners are the stars of heaven. For stars of heaven, which are the sinners. There you go, everyone. So, yes, the planets are not going to fall. There's no such thing. So, the stars are the firmament, but it's also the sinners. And they're also constantly, yes, they're all tethered together like constellations, right? Therefore, they shall not give their light, or the lamp of the wicked shall be put out. The lamp of the wicked, or the sinners shall be put out, which is stars of heaven, right? The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, From the going forth of the command to restore to Messiah the Prince shall be 7 sevens. What darkens it? The 7 sevens comes, and they put out the light, the lamp of the wicked, by bringing a better light, a better way. And the moon shall not cause her light to shine. Yeah, the darkened counsel by words without knowledge, which is the right hand art of separation, or the wrong teachings of Job, is not going to shine no more. And the art of seduction, Sadducees, of everyone wants to be a feminist and, you know, emasculated man, right? Beta cuck, right? That's going to go away. Right up here, verse 11. It's not going to shine no more. I will punish the world for their evil, which is sinners, which is stars of heaven, and the wicked is the world, for their iniquity. I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease. Judah of Church Home, you're proud. And so is the dude, and the Hillsong dude, Lentz. Carl Lentz. You got Pride Life on you. All of you guys, so does, what was the dude in Orange County with the book, Rick Warren. You got Pride of Life. Yeah, you gotta see Pride, because they're all rich and puffed up, right? Because they got people in their pyramids, and they sell their book, and they're on television, right? But that's to keep they're a Pharisee as a star. They're lifted up to a high place so they can keep everyone believing the dumb doctrines, keep them dumbed down, right? It's a great awakening. We're going to peel that, make those scales fall from their eyes. Like Saul was a Pharisee. Saul was a Rick Warren. Saul was a Carl Lentz. Saul was a Judah, right? They're all Pharisees. Right, the pride of their scales fall from your eyes, and it's the scales of the darkened counsel, right? And I'll cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, is what we're doing right now, and I will lay low the haughty of the terrible. Yes, you better believe when the global currency reset comes, you're losing everything anyways, and we're going to scoop up all your stuff, okay? Just like you know, and the haughty of the terrible, and then it goes down. You know, I'll make a man. A man is the wicked of the world, more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. How does God make someone precious? Precious stones of Zion. He lays you low by converting you. We're going to convert you. Hopefully you'll convert. You will wake up after this. You just need to lose everything, because none of you will listen before the time. You won't. And if I told you everything, you'll just you'll just think, you know, that you learned it, and you'll shove me to the side, and you won't recognize that, you know, God uses all people, and you'll just be a pyramid like you have all the answers, right? So God will make people born again, but also God will, as a consuming fire, will remove men, right? It's twofold there. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall be removed out of her place. Shake to remove. But here's the earth is the proud, is the wicked, is the world. The heavens is the stars of heaven. He shakes the heavens and the earth. They move out of their place. Remember, the mountain moves out of their place? Now it says the heavens and earth will be moved out of their place. In the wrath of the Lord of hosts, in the day of his fierce anger. Judah got a measure of that in Church Home in Beverly Hills. He got a measure of that. I shook him. He was scared. They were like calling bouncers on me and everything, because God's about to punish you guys. That's your first warning, by the way, Judah. So there's that one. We got to go to 14:12. We also know that Lucifer was a star. He says, how are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? He's called it son of the morning. How thou cut down to the ground, thou did weaken the nations. Right? He weakens it. If you're in a fallen state, you're weak. If you believe in the darkened counsel by words without knowledge, you know, of Job, you're weak. You're fallen. Right? There's nothing strong about the solar system, everybody. You need to know God's plan of redemption, so you need to know the flat earth model. You need to know that the heavens will melt, the stars will fall, right? The heavens will melt, sun, moon will all go away. But also, he does that by removing the people in the high places, right? So that's the nations. The nations need to fall, you know? So, but what happens is Lucifer, he's consuming, like a locust. He will use the Babylonian dark arts to make one rise up, and then he'll have another one. He'll have another one come and conquer them, and he moves from nation, 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 kind of like the Orange Jews moved from they looted 109 nations. He's using the Babylonian dark arts through the Pharisees and Sadducees still, so they just taught it to their sons, and they rejected Christ, right? And you can read all that. We gotta move on. Isaiah 24:18-23.
24:18-23.
Yeah. Isaiah 24:18-23. This is all Isaiah. We're just going to breeze through them, hopefully fast. It says, at the bottom part of it says, for the windows from on high, the stars, how high they are open. You can open up the heavens, right? But they have windows. And the foundations of the earth do shake. That foundation has doors and windows, right? It can be open or shut up, right? Like I said in Job, the foundations of the earth do shake. So that foundation can shake. Remember the foundation, they can be, the foundation can be overflown by a flood. The overflown by a flood shakes you. That's what opens heaven, is the flood. Flood opens heaven, but also shuts hell. You find that out in Malachi, that when you're on fire, you shut the doors to hell, right? The earth is utterly broken down, right? And the earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and be removed like a cottage. And the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it. See, it's heavy versus God's hand's light. It's heavy now. And it shall fall and not rise again. So that's how you fall and not rise. And it shall come to pass in that day, the Lord of hosts shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high. That, remember the stars, how high they are? And the kings of the earth upon the earth. The kings of the earth are the stars of heaven. Everyone, like I just said. So we just saw it in chapter 13. Now we saw it again in chapter 24. So the stars of Hollywood are the kings of the earth. The stars are also the judges, which we just removed them out of the Ninth Circuit. They fell, and they're not going to rise again. Why? Because we're going to hang them. At least that generation of people, right? And we know that Lucifer is falling right now. Remember Jesus said, I saw Satan fall like lightning, right? So he's falling right now. Lucifer's falling. So that's what I said. And then here it says, then the moon shall be confounded and the sun's ashamed when the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem before the ancients gloriously. When God reigns in your show of your countenance, and when he reigns in your nation, not just in Mount Zion, Zion's supposed to spread to all nations, by the way. It's not just, the promised land. Zion is the whole earth. That's God's kingdom come. Jerusalem will be inside you. And then when you're in your nation, you bring Jerusalem to your nation, right? Then the moon shall be confounded and sun ashamed. That means before the great and noble day of the Lord. That means, what's the moon and sun? The kings of the earth. They'll be gathered together as prisoners. They're gathered into the pit. And they shall be shut up in the prison. And after many days they shall be punished. That means visited. How are they going to be punished? By the fall. By God shaking them. Go back down to this other one. And by God clean dissolving. Remember that dissolved. Earth will be clean dissolved. It'll be moved or shaken exceedingly. How's it moved? It's reeled to and fro. So the earth staggers like a drunkard. This is twofold. It shows both sides of the light and the dark. Like the earth can reel to and fro like a drunkard when it's walking in dark. Remember, it staggers like a drunkard when they're in the wilderness. You're reeled to and fro, or you let the government that is Babylonian reel you and move you, and you're emotional and everything, right? So you're emotional, and they order your steps by all their policies, and so also but that's all going to be removed like a cottage, right? Like a cottage is a house. You can remove that house or that cottage, and that's how it's taken. The Lord will take you out, right? And then he'll remove you by, you can be broken down by confusion, by the dark arts, or you can be built up. But also the earth can be, if it is broken down and confused, God's going to sweep you away by his spirit and wake you up, hopefully, and build you back up and build your nation. That's what's going on now. God didn't let us get consumed by our enemies, by World War III or Civil War. God helped us find people, get in position, and we're cleaning house right now, draining the swamp. All right. If you go to 34:4. Remember, it said, what time they wax warm, they vanish. When it is hot, they are consumed out of their place. In Job 6, they're consumed out of their place when it's hot. That's in Job 6, 34:4. It says, all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved. Here it's dissolved again. The earth will be dissolved, but now it's the hosts of heaven be dissolved. Right? How's it dissolved? Up here it says melted. Remember it said in Job 6 about how they wax warm, they vanish, they're hot, they're consumed? All that is melt. Or you can melt the mindsets of the hosts of heaven, right? And also you can melt the firmament, right? But it says the mountains shall be melted with their blood, right? Remember it says blood and fire and vapor, smoke before the great and noble day of the Lord come. When Ananias and Sapphira dropped dead, if they weren't carried out to be buried in a grave, you better believe you see where the carcasses there, the eagles will be gathered together. They were kind enough to bury those people, and otherwise you would see their blood spilt everywhere, right? Like, because the things you just being devoured, their flesh would be torn by all the animals of the earth, right? So that's one way how that works. Also, all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and all the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. You have to know that the heavens can roll up like a scroll. When the heavens roll up like a scroll, that's a book, the roll of a book. The heavens are tied to a book, because remember we talked to a book is tied to your crown, and the crown is tied to tied to the heavens. But here it says the host of heaven. So the host of the high ones, that are on high, which is the stars. So this is the demons that are inside the mountains of the people. That their mindsets will be dissolved. And you can roll that up like a scroll. You'll find out when you roll it up like a scroll, you stretch out God's heavens. So when God's heavens stretch out, this one's rolling up, right? So you stretch out God's hands, this one rolls up, right? And so that's it all works like a book. The heavens work like, the reason why there is scrolls and books and things to be written, because we are a scroll and a book. So the heavens are set and seen in the show of our countenance. Okay, I want to continue on with that one. It says, as a leaf falls off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. So falling figs are stars, right? And the vine is also heaven, because it's a constellation. That's the way of a vineyard, which also is like a tree, right? And so you have to know all those things, all right? All right, 51:6. 51:6. We're saying a lot, but it's all coming back. This is such a long video. Here's how you do it. Remember we talked about lifting up your eyes, lifting up your countenance, lifting up your face, right? Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look upon the earth beneath. You have to look upon the earth to see, how to remove stones of emptiness, but you have to lift up your eyes to heaven, right? For the heavens shall vanish away like smoke. You find out this smoke is in Revelation 9:2. That's the smoke of the bottomless pit. The heavens shall vanish away. Not only will the firmament vanish away and melt away, but the heavens as of the hand of the enemy. Remember that when God said, behold, all that he has is in your hand? Like the hand of the devil, which is the smoke of the bottomless pit, that's the cloud of the smoke of the bottomless pit, which is shadow of death. That has to vanish away. You can see that on people. We go to like Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, like all the progressive lefters are there. So like you see people, a bunch of people that are just dead. You know what I mean? Like, and we go to church and people are dead there too. Like you can see that they look just dark. They're very dim. Their lights are out. You go to church, people's lights are out. Right? All that's got to vanish away. The left hand and the right hand. Both the progressive lefters and the neocons, the right wingers. You got to bring them in the center of the road, the straight and narrow way, right? That's the Sadducee and the Pharisee way got to be removed. It's got to vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment. See, remember, the heavens are your garments. This is the rise and fall of a countenance. We just did that video. You lift up your eyes, that changes your garments, right? And the smoke goes away. You change your filthy garments. That smoke makes your garments filthy and stinky. We know because Madeline's house was filled with smoke when the kitchen caught on fire and everything stunk, right? That has to be vanished away by washing of water by the word. He wears away the stones, right? Those stones build the heavens, right? And their garments that dwell therein shall die in like manner. You have to die daily, but also you'll die by consuming fire. It's multifaceted here. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. To vanish away is abolished, right? But salvation is what comes that makes this vanish away, and salvation will not be abolished if it comes. The way salvation comes is by the new garments, right there. Okay, there's verse 16 on the other side. I guess verse 16. We'll have to see what that says. Verse 16, same chapter. Oh, here's how you do it. I have put my words in thy mouth. I have covered thee, covered by a garment, in the shadow of mine hand. God covers you in his shadow of his hand, not the shadow of death, but the shadow of his hand. Right? That, what does he do? That I may plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth, and say unto Zion, thou art my people. When are you God's people? We're God's people for born again. Well, sort of, yes. You're born again when he put his word in you, but you need to put all the scriptures in you so he can build you in 7 sevens, right? Then he covers you by, do you understand the spreadings of the clouds? How is clouds spread? Who has put wisdom in your inward parts? To put is to write. That's the plant. I mean, he plants the heavens inside you. The heavens is God's hand, and it covers you, and the heavens is his word. There it is again. The word of God makes the heavens, and the put is covered by plant, by lay. You lay the foundation of the earth. The heavens and the earth are now being changed. It changes its garments, right? Not only will there be a new heaven, new earth, but externally, but internally, there's a new heaven and earth that's seen in the air, because the internal is changed. The air is changed by the covering that's on you, right? Because God's hand's on you. God's hand is the new heavens and new earth, and that's when you awake and stand up. Remember? So you lift up your eyes, and that the words of God makes you stand up and lift up your eyes and wake you up more and more and more. That's what we're doing right now. And then 65 verse 17, same book, 65:17. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered. Or the heavens will roll up like a scroll, and they'll be dissolved. They roll up. Why? They shall not be remembered, and nor come into mind. See, it's all in your mind. See, you have to lift up your eyes, which is your mind. That changes your garments, right? Because if it's hid from your eyes how this works, then you're going to forget the new heavens, the new earth. But if the new heavens, new earth can be created in every generation and every nation, as long as you get the fullness of the revelation of Jesus Christ. And when you get it, you're taken to heaven until the next generations can play it, until there's no more Adam left. That's how it works. But it works by forget and remember, eyes up or eyes down, come into mind or cast down the truth to the ground, right? Come or go, right? And that's how you create. God creates in the mind. Like we already went over that before. Isaiah 66:22. I think last one for Isaiah. 66:22 says, for as the new heavens and new earth, which I will make, he makes it by how? He puts the word in your heart. Shall remain before me, saith the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain. When you continue, you remain, you find out. When you continue in the word, you have to continue in all the word. That means you have to walk holy, walk in all the higher levels. You can do this all in the house of clay, all in your flesh. You just crucify the flesh. You mortify the deeds of the flesh. You won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. And that's how you birth the new heavens, new earth. Like I said, the new heavens, new earth, excuse me, are birthed, right, by plant. And that's when they come. Okay, we got that one. Let's go to, excuse me, Haggai 2:6 and 7. So we got so far how the new heavens, new earth come. This is setting us up for the 7 seal scale, and it's going to redefine what Jesus said. Okay, so we're still defining what stars of heaven are. What does he do? For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the hosts of heaven. Yet once, it is a little while. Remember, that little came from, he whispered a little in my ear. The devil came and said, shall man be more just than his maker? Is a little while, or as long as you believe what that spirit says, that devil says to you, and I will shake the heavens and the earth. I'm shaking you and waking you up. Stand up, wake up. Don't believe what that spirit says. I'm showing you the new form and the new fashion of the new spirit. I shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land. I will shake all nations. The nations are the dry land, is the sea, is the earth, is the heavens. These are the symbols. The heavens and the sea and the dry land are the nations, and the desire of all nations shall come. See, remember, God changes your countenance. He changes your desires. He changes you by shaking you, removing you, not just physically out of those positions of the high places, of the stars of heaven and the mountains and the sea and dry land. You'll see all this inside the 7 vials and trumpet scale. sea and the earth. You'll see the nations. It's the scale of the nations. You'll see the stars of heaven, sun, moon, stars. Yeah. Remember 1 John 3:2 says, is not yet, not yet, it's not yet, is not yet, does not yet appear what we shall be. You have to, what you shall be is what shall be. You have to let God appear on you, and that's when he shakes. So that's why I was shaking church home, because God was appearing on me, and my clothing was, my garments were white, and I was going into that place. But I'm a day 4. Once I'm day 5 is about to give me an upper hand. I go day 5 when the at the reset. Then I'm going to buy up all the houses and lands, and I'll be able to control everything and say whatever I want, because you can't kick me out of my own place. So I'll shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come, and I will fill this house with glory. So the house of God is the nations, is the dry land, the sea, and the earth, right? And then, yeah, that's good enough. Oh, well, yeah. Do I have 21 and 22 on there? Let me see what 21 and 22 is. Verse 21, 22, same chapter. Yeah, okay. Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth. I will overthrow, by shake, overthrow the throne of kingdoms. The kingdoms is the heavens and the earth. And I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen. I mean, the heathens, the sinners, is the wicked, is the world, right? And I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and the horses and the riders shall come down, everyone by the sword of his brother, right? God destroys the throne of kingdoms. When he overthrows those, the heavens and the earth do change, by the way. So when God set up his body in all nations, the heavens will melt. But also he melts the temporary, not just the temporary heavens that's there, but he melts and rolls up the heavens like a scroll as concerning the sky, the power of the air. You know what I mean? The power of the air that's seen on the show of your countenance. That's a corporate anointing or anti-anointing, right? That's what makes the heavens. Let's go to Nehemiah 1, 5 through 8. Woo, we're over 2 hours now. It's going to be a long upload. It's just going to have to be that long. Sorry, everybody. You can Nehemiah 1, 5 to 8. Or Nahum, sorry. Okay. Nahum 1, 5 to 8. Yeah, Nahum. I'll wait for you to catch up because I got to go fast. It says the mountains. Yeah. The mountains quake at him. The hills melt. Remember, to shake is to quake is to melt. And the earth is burned at his presence. Yea, the world and all that dwell therein. The world is the hills, is the mountains, is the earth, and God's presence will burn, melt, and quake you, right? And mountains is the rock, and they shall be thrown down, right? And it says the Lord is good and strong, is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. Yes, God is a stronghold, by the way. Remember I told you a stronghold is a city? You want to build a city of God, which is God himself, the Holy Spirit? God is good. There's none good but God. And he's a stronghold in the day of trouble. And he knows them that trust in him. You have to know God to have that stronghold. To know God is to be with God, is to have those strongholds, is to bring his presence on you. Then you go to the mountains and you make them quake at God that's on you. So, and you trust God. But with an overrunning flood, remember God's a fiery stream, he will make an utter end of the place thereof. The place of what? The world, the mountains, the hills. You have to be an overrunning flood. God's flood is comes through the strongholds that's in you, the good strongholds, right? And darkness shall pursue his enemies, right? And so the stuff that they try to roll over on you will roll back on them. So if we follow throw down, you'll find out it's dashed to pieces, cut off, right? But here's the gospel right here, by the way. Behold, upon the mountains, the feet of him that brings good tidings, that publishes peace, right? O Judah, keep the solemn feast, perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. He is already cut off, right? He's going to be cut off like how? I'll make thy grave, thou art vile, like there'll be no more, right? You see all that? But it's the good tidings is the gospel. You have to publish it where? Upon the mountains. Go to the high places. Go to the stars of heaven. Go to the stars of Hollywood. Go to the heads. Go to the judges. You preach it to them. You remove them, right? And so that's how you break this yoke from off the burst thy bands in sunder. It's all right here. All right, we'll have to do that another time. 2:3 and 3:10. Same book.
Nahum?
Nahum 2:3.
Okay.
Then we'll go to 3:10, 3:18.
Okay.
2:3 says, "The shield of his mighty men is made red. The valiant men are in scarlet." You'll find out red is blood, right? Scarlet. The chariots shall be with flaming torches in the day of his preparation, and the fir trees shall be terribly shaken. So you can, they're also valiant men, mighty men, also known as fir trees. Remember that, okay? Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. You can see it. You can pause it and look at it. I'll go ahead and read this one, verse 6. "The gates of the rivers shall be opened, and the palace shall be dissolved." Now here it says the palace is dissolved or melted. Remember it says he'll dissolve the heavens, right? He'll roll them up like a scroll. But you have to, their gates have to be open. Remember it says the windows from on high shall be open. Now here it calls it a gate. And it says, remember it says the waters is the heavens in Isaiah or Jeremiah. So now it says the gates of the rivers have gates, shall be opened. So those rivers will come, the rivers connect to the heavens, right? And they connect to us. You open up the floodgates, which is your mouth, right? And that's your defense. You know what I mean? "He shall recount his worthies. They shall stumble in their walk. They shall make haste to the wall thereof, and the defense shall be prepared." Right? That wall of defense is that river. It's a river's a wall, right? And that's a day 4 operation. You have to defend yourself, and the way you defend yourself is you open up the gates or you build walls. That's why we're building external wall, because they're trying to flood us out by overflowing flood through the dark arts and letting people in that weren't citizens, and they were taking money out of her. They were up here. They were right here. It says like emptied or being marred, right? They're being emptied out and stuff, right? They're breaking us down. Okay, 3:10:18. There's a lot I could say there. You can see it. All right. 10 says, "Yet was she carried away. She went into captivity. Her young children also were dashed in pieces at the top of all the streets. They cast lots for her honorable men." Remember, if you're honorable, you're at the top. Remember, it says some come to honor and they know not. When you're in honor, when you're at the top. "And all her great men were bound in chains." Remember, it says, are you so smart? You know what I mean? Are you old? The number of your days are great. The number of your days are great, or God's thoughts are precious and are great towards us. Great is honorable. Remember, that's high. Great is honorable, which is top. That's that one. "All thy strongholds shall be like fig trees." That's verse 12. "With the first ripe figs." Remember, it says stars will fall like figs from a tree. Figs are strongholds. So their strongholds are external and internal. And their strongholds are thoughts. Thoughts will fall. They shall be shaken. They shall even fall into the mouth of the eater. "The stars of heaven are also strongholds." So the stars of heaven are also the tops of all the streets. The streets are the rivers or the vines. All right, we follow this line over here. We'll read, "Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven." Stars of heaven are merchants. "The cankerworm spoileth." That was the devil. He made a canker in this space here. He spoils and flee away. "Thy crowned," or as the locusts. Stars of heaven can be locusts. Those are devils, right? Remember, stars of heaven are locusts. They come out of the black smoke, right? "And thy captains as the great grasshoppers, which camp in the hedges in the cold day, but when the sun arises, they flee away." Or like cockroaches scattered to the light. They flee away, or they vanish away. They go away, right? So they flee away. "And their place is not known where they are," or that we remove them out of their place, or their strongholds melt, and devils can't hide inside your mind anymore, right? This would cast out devils. This is how you cast out devils right here. "Thy shepherds slumber, O King of Assyria. Thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathers them." Right? I'm gathering you together right now. I'm scattering all the strongholds that were in your mind by showing you that nobles and shepherds and officials have a place, that are captains that are crowned, that are merchants and stars of heaven, but they have strongholds that they work externally and internally. Okay? That's where that all comes from. Micah 1:3-4. This may be a 2.5 hour video. It just has to be that way on this one. This was a long one. Here it goes. For behold, the Lord comes forth out of his place, and will come down and tread upon the high places of the earth. That's the high places of dominion. And the mountains shall be molten under him. The mountains are the high places. So now you know that, right? Right? Mountains are high places. We've seen that. God treads upon those high places, but he has to come down by spread. If you want God to come down out of heaven, you have to spread or stretch his tent and form to fashion, frame, and confirm his covenant with many. But you got to actually teach the real word of the Lord. He spreads by the word, by his word. The heavens stretch out by his word or his counsel. If you pervert his counsel or you darken his counsel by words without knowledge, God cannot come down and descend on us, and we cannot ascend to him. Okay? There's that one. Micah. Oh, also it's verse 4 and 6. I had 3. That's 4, 6. 6 says, oh yeah, he says, I will discover the foundations thereof. That's how he does it. When he comes down, he discovers the foundations. And you find out the foundations are images, the graven images that's in you, you know what I mean? And you got to beat those pieces. There's the hires of the harlot, the whore foundation, the money. There's money. He's got to lay that desolate. So hires of harlot is God has to burn it with his fire, or he gives you eyes to see, and you discover that foundation. You call it out. You show a greater image, like what we're doing now. And also money's tied to that system externally that you have to get rid of. You have to get rid of the hires of the harlot. Okay. Now that was Micah.
Correct.
We got to go to Joel chapter 2. We have like 5 left, so we'll be done in like 10 minutes. You keep coming back to this one, but this is important to put all this on camera. This is the foundation, original intent of scriptures. The earth shall quake, 2:10, before them. The heavens shall tremble. We've seen that before. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. How do the stars withdraw their shining? The lamp of the wicked shall be put out. All right? And that's right here. So if you see it, I'll just quote it. It's Proverbs 21:4. It says that is the lamp of the wicked. That's the light of the moon, or or Luciferian knowledge, the Illuminati, right? So that's Proverbs 21:4 is the plowing of the wicked. You plow by your words. You plow, you dig. You plow by a lamp or a light, right? Whether it's good or evil, right? So the plowing of the wicked, he's going to bring to nothing. So the earth shall quake before them, and heaven shall tremble. This is people in the high places. And they're called the sun, the moon, right? And they shall be dark. All that comes from the sun and moon, all that comes out of Genesis when the sun and moon and stars did obeisance unto Joseph. That's where all this comes from, all right? So we'll build that up. And the Lord shall utter his voice before his army. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm building the army. For his camp is very great. God is building his army to be very great. For he is strong. That's how you're strong. You're very great. That executes his word. All right? It's his word that makes you tremble and quake. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible. Who can abide it? Right? The day of the Lord is what makes quaking and trembling. That works by his voice in the saints, in his army. And his army goes to the high places, right? All right, and that's now go Joel chapter 3, verse 15 and 16. This is where you have to know this because Jesus used all these words. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, right? That's the lamp of the wicked. And that means the sun can scorch you like heat, like it talks in Ecclesiastes. And the moon shall not give her light, shall be darkened. The stars shall withdraw their shining. They have to withdraw. They have to shrink back, right? Because the morning's coming, right? The Lord also shall roar. That's how they withdraw. The Lord shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. That's the body of Christ. And the heavens and the earth shall shake, right? But the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength is in hope, of the children of Israel. So shall ye know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall be Jerusalem be holy. So when you know God, you're holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her any more. And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop new wine. Why? Because the holy ones did shake the heavens and the earth. The stars withdraw their shining. The sun and moon shall be darkened. And then we went into the mountaintops, right? And the hills, right? And up here, it says, shall flow with milk, and all the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters. That's waters of the presence of God. And a fountain shall come forth of the house of the Lord. It shall water the valley of Shittim. All right. And so that means the saints actually grow up and actually we start watering. That's what we're going to do. That's why we're building all new Hollywood. After the deep state's kicked out and the new money system comes, we're building all new Hollywood. And we are, so I'm doing, as an apostle has all the prophet, pastor, evangelist, teacher and wrapped inside it. That's why I'm prophesying what we're doing. I'm giving you the instructions and the blueprint of what we're going to do. We are all new media platforms, like I prophesied on Brandon, That's the Point, Brandon. All new Hollywood, all new film studios are coming, and we're choosing the people who we're going to put in those places. We're giving out the keys, but we're also confirming Christ in you. We're not just going to give cast for pearls of swine, and we're also not going to give a gun to a baby. You know what I mean? We need to grow you up, so you need to be stable, and you can't, the way you can't be moved, where the Lord is set at your right hand always. Okay? Amos chapter 1. After this we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more to go, and that's it. I may show 6, 7. All right, so Amos 1, 2 says, and Lord will roar from Zion, utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the habitations of the shepherds shall mourn. What's the habitations of the shepherds? And the top of Carmel shall wither. The tops of the mountains, Carmel is a mountain, right? Right? So if you mourn, you're withering, right? That's 1, 2, and also 4:13. Amos 4:13 says, here it is again, for lo, he forms the mountains, so we got to form mountains, and creates the wind. You form by create by form, by prepare. Remember Jesus said, I come prepare a place for you. He prepares to meet. You know, I will do this unto thee, prepare to meet thy God, O Israel. You have to prepare to meet God or go face to face by forming Christ, by knowing the love of God, which is keeping the commandments, by knowing the love of Christ, which gives you comprehension of all the length, the breadth, the depth, and height, right? Which is inside the snow globe, right? It is a globe, but it's a snow globe, right? And for he forms the mountains, creates the wind, declares by declare. That's how I'm doing it. I'm creating and forming and preparing you to meet God by declaring unto you what you got to do. What is his thought? I'm telling you what your thoughts are, and make the morning darkness and treads upon the high places of the earth, right? So you have to make, right? And the morning darkness, this means by bringing the presence of God, right? So God, you spreading out the morning, right? To tread upon the high place of the earth, because he's bringing the counsel, Lord, because the clouds can be dark, right? He brings a time of trouble in the sense of a time of evil, when God becomes a consuming fire, when he's mad. So the morning can be dark too, right? And that's when God's dark and mad at his enemies, and treads upon the high places of the earth. God has to tread not just upon the waves of the sea. He wants to tread upon the high places, right? Those high places have waves, like I said, and those high places are the positions, but also it's the people, right? It's also the strongholds in your mind. Okay, so Obadiah 1, 3, and 4. They're almost done. 1, 3 says, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest, where they dwell, in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high. Remember how it said a rock was a mountain, and it's a high place? It's a habitation. There's a cleft in there. Who that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Right? If you're not high, you're on the ground. Though thou exalt thyself, to be in those high places is exalted, but let God exalt you. If you exalt yourself, it's because you made a deal with the devil, like that all celebrities do in Hollywood, right? You'll be humbled. You exalt yourself as an eagle. An eagle is high, is on a rock. They dwell on the rock. Thou that set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. See, a star is a host of high ones that's exalted, is a rock, is the habitation of the high place, right? So you see all those things. Now I think you'll understand when Jesus said the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, stars will fall like figs from a tree. I think we understand now what he's saying. That's not the end of the world, everybody. That's the end of Babylon and its system, but the earth is going to remain here. The only thing that's going to dissolve is going to be this firmament, but the people are going to move out of those high places, and we're going to change the nations. That's what all this means. Okay? And all of it was put in a scale. Let's go to Ezekiel 38:20. Then we'll end up... And we'll have to go... Okay, Habakkuk after that. I didn't put that one down, but... Alright, so 20 says... I'll read the bottom of it. Actually, I'll read it. So that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field. So you got field, heaven, and sea. That's the three-ring circus, everybody. And all creeping things that creep upon the earth. All the men that are upon the face of the earth. The face of the earth is a field, a heaven, and a sea. The sea of the earth shall shake at my presence. See, they shake at my presence. And the mountains, which is all these things, and these are all the scale, and the mountains are in all these grids. The grid of the sea, the grid of the heaven, grid of the field. And heaven itself is a field inside a sea. Right? You have a field of a sea. That's why God had to rightly divide everything, how heaven works. He made the whole earth like that so we can understand it. And the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall. Thrown down is fall by his presence. And every wall shall fall to the ground. Ground versus a steep place, right? We'll go here, verse 22. I'll plead against him with pestilence and with the blood. Remember, blood and fire and vapor smoke come before the great and noble day of the Lord. Remember, blood again. I'll rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people or bands that are with him, and an overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. There's blood, fire, and vapor smoke for before the great and noble day. That's his presence, everyone. His presence is hailstones, fire, and brimstone, and he can make blood happen out of that, and people or mountains. And there he goes. And thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations. Nations are many people. That's why it says many nations, which are mountains, right? And so the nations are the people, is the mountains, is the stars of heaven, which is the devils or angels working through those nations. Okay, so let's go to Habakkuk 3:13. Habakkuk 3:13. I just have to read this so you guys understand this. Then we have 4 more after this and we're done. Okay, 3:13 says, and this should make sense, some things that's in the book of Revelation, Jesus Christ. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, even for salvation of thine anointed. Thou wound the head out of the house of the wicked. Remember, the house of the wicked is the house of darkness. There's a head connected to that house. You can wound it. How do you wound the head? By discovering the foundation unto the neck. Selah. Right? You can wound the foundation. Or remember the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, and one of the heads was wounded by a sword and did live. That sword is how you're wounded by a sword. One of the heads was wounded by a sword, the sword of discovering the foundation. I'm discovering the foundation of all the original intent of scriptures, everyone. And that's how you do it. There's heads of villages, right? Right? And you can discover that foundation of those heads, right? So let's go to, looks like Ezekiel 6:3. It says flip to it. Ezekiel 6:3. I didn't have that one written down, and then we'll finish up in Psalms. Ezekiel 6:3. Let's see what this one says. Right? And say ye mountains of Israel, and say ye mountains of Israel, so you can be a mountain too. Hear the word of the Lord God. Thus saith the Lord God to the mountains, see, speak to the mountains, and to the hills. God speaks to the mountains. It says, if you shall speak to the mountains. So God speaks to the mountains through us, by the way. And to the hills, to the rivers. Oh, we speak to the rivers and to the hills and to the valleys. Behold, I, even I, will bring a sword upon you, and I will destroy your high places. The high places are the rivers, the mountains, the valleys, and the hills. There's a scale, everyone. And that scale is inside the 7 trumpets, the 7 vials scales. I said those are high places. That's what I said. Then you execute God's wrath. That's why the judgment scales, right? That's what, God's wrath is in here. I will send upon you famine, evil beasts, and they shall breathe you, and pestilence and blood. See, blood. And shall pass through thee, and I'll bring the sword upon thee, saith the Lord. Sword, famine, noisome beast, and pestilence. pestilence. That's the 4 sore judgments. That's in the scales, everyone, which is in that's in the 7 seals, vials, and trumpets. So now, as I said, these are not timelines. These are things that it happened back then, and it happened in Rome. It happened in Ezekiel. It happened in Babylon. It happened in Medo-Persia. It happened in Greece. It's the same war and same battle repeats itself. That's why it's a scale. It's not a timeline. If you're waiting for a timeline, waiting for all these events that happen in a 7-year timeline, they end up building it upon you and you don't move. So high places are mountains, rivers, and valleys and hills, and God speaks to those. And why would God speak to these if they weren't people? Okay? So Psalm 33. These are the last 3. Last 3. Psalm 33, verse 6 and 7. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made. See? And all the host of them. By the breath of his mouth. Right? He gathers the waters of the sea together as a heap. He lays up the depth in storehouses. The depth of the deep, or the sea, has storehouses. There's layers. Lay up, if there's layers. So line upon line, precept upon precept, about to gather you together and show you all this stuff, how the heavens are made, everyone. The heavens are made through people, through their thoughts, by putting the word of the Lord inside them in their inward parts. That's how he plants the heavens, lays the foundation of the earth. The foundation of the earth has to change its garments. The world will be destroyed by fire, by the presence of God, right? By coming out of the saints, not by water. It works like a waters, but he gathers the waters of the sea together. The waters of the sea is the fiery stream that has to be put in you by the word of the Lord, and he makes a new heavens in the show of your countenance, and that fills the open firmament, which is the sky. And then do you with him spread out the sky? Yes, we spread out the sky, we spread out the heavens, we stretch out God's tent, just like I'm doing now, right? And that's all done through the counsel of the Lord versus the counsel of the heathen. Those are 2 things that make the heavens, right? And there's deep levels to this. All right, and then Psalm 46, 2 through 6. Psalm 46, 2 through 6. You see it now? Hope you see it all. You're going to really see what Jesus is saying now. You should figure it out. I don't really need to make the next 2 videos, but I will. 2 through 6. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the seas. Oh, well, God does that. Well, Jesus said we do that. Mark 11:24 says, 22:24 says, have faith in God, for whosoever shall say to this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but believes in those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith. And when you stand praying, he calls this standing up, he calls this praying when you speak to mountains. Forgive. Make sure you have love in your heart. And there's faith and then hope. The hope of you can do the hope of the pattern of the counsel of God, of how the infrastructure works right here, right? And so therefore we not fear, though the earth be removed. How you move it? You carry it in the midst of the sea. So how is the earth removed? How are the mountains removed? You got to carry them into the midst of the sea. That's it. Though the waters thereof roar and be troubled. So they're going to he who's has the most to lose is going to be crying the loudest, right? That's people crying. The waters thereof will roar, and they'll be troubled, though the mountains shake, and the swelling thereof. Selah. Pause and calmly think that this is people, right? Right? There is a river, the streams whereof that shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High, which is on the people. That's the river. The river is what removes these things, by the way, which is the river, the pure river of water of life. And God is in the midst of her. See, God is the river. He's in the midst of us. She shall not be moved. That's when we're not moved. God shall help her in that right early, right, in the morning, right? That's when God helps you, is in the morning. That's when redemption comes. Lift up your eyes, for your redemption draweth nigh. The heathen raged. Who's the heathen? The earth and the mountains. The heathen rage. Why did the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Psalm 2, right? Because the kingdoms were moved. How are they moved? He uttered his voice, the earth melted. The earth is melted by being removed and carried away by the river that comes against them. That's what we're doing. We're draining the swamp and we're flooding out the deep state and the fake news. Psalm 68:2. Yay! Last one. Pretty sure I have to look over everything. Oh. I do have 2 more. I do have to see these. Yep. Or no, I don't. I might not. This might be it. It says, as smoke. It says, oh, I'll read one. Let God arise, let his enemies be scattered. How are they scattered? God arising. How's God arise? And when we lift up our eyes and we become like him, because God no longer goes to his place until we acknowledge our sin, right? He now comes out of his place and descends and comes on us, right? He descends on Mount Sinai when we climb the mountain, right? Let his enemies be scattered. Let them also that hate him flee before him. Flee is scatter. As smoke is our enemies. As smoke is driven away, so drive them away. As wax melts before the fire, fire is God's, is him, God is fire. So let the wicked perish at the presence of God. The presence of God is the fire of God. That has to be on us, right? And but let the righteous be glad and let them rejoice before God. You have to be before God, in the presence of God, to let the fire of God come to drive away your enemies and melt them. So remember, to drive away is to melt, is to scatter, is to flee, right? But the earth shall melt. Remember, so that means, so that's not just the earth melting; it's also the enemies melt, right? So as I said, the earth is the enemies. So you see all that, and that's why we rejoice, because when we're before God, you get the strength inside you. Okie dokie. I think that's everything. I'll end with actually Isaiah 25:7. Says, here's what God does. It relates to that right here. He will destroy in this mountain, see, the face of the covering cast over all people. What's the face of the covering cast over all people? The veil that is spread over all nations, right? All nations are tied to there's 7 heads and 10 horns. Those are the mountaintops. God's got to go to those 7 heads and 10 horns and kill the beast. The beast that makes you like a natural root beast, which is the veil, which is the eye of Horus, the horoscope, which is, he's got to bring down that noise. You know, the noise of strangers, right? That's the branch of the terrible ones. They will be brought low. Remember, brought low? So they're removed out of their high places. Brought low comes from Job 14, right? And they're brought low by he destroys. He destroys by washing of water. He wears them away. So he will swallow up death. How they spread and they cast over, God can do the same thing. He swallows up. Everything works by a flood. That's why the sun and moon are on a circuit and they move around. When one comes, the other one goes. That's why I said you have to know a flat earth model, then all the rest of the Bible makes sense. Either we're on the solar system and all the Bible is just a neat looking book, or the model of the flat earth is a real thing. We're really in a dome and the whole story of the Bible is true. Okay? So this sets us up for the 7 seals, vials, and trumpets, which we're doing next. These are the stars of heaven. Overall, stars of heaven is mountains, is hills, is valleys, is rivers, is the wicked men, right? Or you can convert all those into God's rivers and mountains and stars, you know. But it's also angels. You know what I mean? There is one more where it says that the devil drew a third of the stars with his tail, right? And those you find out were devils, you know, the fallen angels, it said. That's in Revelation 12. And that's actually the last one, but you just have to look it up, because we are 2.5 hours into this, the longest video we've ever done. So, but we're going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed the teaching. It's long, but I'm sure it will, you know, fence up any questions that you may have had. That, you know, there is operations to those elements. You know, you want to make sure that, you know, remove is shake, is quake, right? Is fall, cast out, cast down, and, you know, driven away, right? To build up and to plant God's stuff. And so there's many more ways to explain all this stuff, but thank you for watching and joining us today, and we'll be back again soon. Thank you, Donovan.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You made it through the week to day 7, and finally, that's when you get to lay in heaven. Life is a game, and it's good versus evil. So let's take dominion for our people. And your life is a game, and it's good versus evil.